Yo, 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 what's good? What's good? Sound check, 1 2 1 2. And clear. Welcome to the Passport Bros podcast. I have a special guest in the background. We're gonna talk again about Brazil, some of the laws. I did a stream a few weeks ago, and a couple of guys were kind of, had their own opinion about, some of the things that's going on in Brazil as it relates to, the family court system. So I wanted to bring someone up that I know personally that lives there that can give insight on everything. So I'm gonna bring up my brother, Mr. Kevin Campbell. Man, what's good, man?
Nothing much, man. I'm out here hanging in Cabo Frio, Brazil, holding it down as usual, representing to the fullest.
That's what's up, man. That's what's up, man. Last time, man, you came on the stream, man. A lot of people appreciated, man, the insight you gave, man. It was very popular, and so yeah, I'm glad you were able to come back again.
For sure. Anytime, man. I'm always available. I love to share information. One thing I'm happy about when I talk to people about Brazil is that I won't say anything unless I got firsthand experience. I'll tell you what I heard, but
Yeah.
if I have firsthand experience, then I'll let you know that as well too. Because there's a lot of things where there's a theory, and there could even be what the law and other things are, but in practice and day-to-day life, it could be a whole nother thing. That might not be the way things really happen, out there on the playing field.
Exactly. So I don't know. Are you familiar with Austin Holloman? Have you heard about him?
No, I haven't heard about him. Who is that? How would I know about him?
Okay. Well, he's a young guy. He part of the Passport Bro movement. He's very he has a large social media following,
Mhm.
and Brazil was one of his first countries that he traveled to, and I want to say 2 years ago he encountered some controversy in Brazil with this feminist woman, and they basically because he was interviewing women on camera, asking them questions about dating, casual dating, and they tried to kind of spin his interviews uh, in a negative way, and basically she kind of scared him out the country. She kind of scared him out the country. It was even on Brazil CNN. Trying to label him as a S tourist, but he ended up going. He ended up taking a break from Brazil and then coming back this earlier this year. But he kind of complained about some things as far as preference for white people, some racism, and so he left Brazil alone, and now he's in Africa. So I didn't know if you probably don't follow certain things on YouTube, but he's very popular in the travel space.
Oh, that's interesting. Well, I mean, I don't know. Like when you say chased him out, I don't know why if he felt like he had to leave for legal reasons, or gonna get caught up in the law, or get caught up, in something else. But there's definitely racism, in Brazil too. I think
Yeah,
racism is kind of across the globe. It's just at different levels. It's at different ways it's expressed and exposed and shown. You'll see it in different ways, even though it's still at the end of the day racist.
right. That's what a lot of the more mature guys said, is that racism is everywhere, and then feminism. I've seen feminism. So you live in Brazil, so I'm gonna look at you more as a pro Brazil guy. You know what I mean? But I've always had some criticism. you
Mhm.
know, and since you live there, you can set the record straight. You can correct me on some things, and
Right.
so forth. So the meat of the discussion is going to be around the family court. But
Okay.
before we touch that, I want to address the feminism aspect. So um, there are a lot of pro Brazil guys in the travel space. Like you can't say anything wrong about Brazil, or they're gonna be at your neck. So
One of those people. Trust me. I'll talk about the good and the bad because that's everywhere. There's nothing. Nowhere is perfect. There's good and bad no matter where you go.
yeah. So my argument with the feminism has always been, it's well, so the premise on leaving the United States is to like explore your options in whatever country, and that a lot of these countries are better than the Matrix USA, which Brazil is. But my criticism of Brazil when it comes to feminism is that it's a it's it's a matrix in South America. Like and one of my arguments was like Brazil had a female president. There's a large feminist movement there, and some people their rebuttal was that, well, how does a female president affect your day to day life? Um, and I got arguments against that, but
It might be happening in the U.S.
you're right. So is it a fair statement? Is it fair for me to look at Brazil as an extension of the U.S. as it pertains to feminism?
As an extension. Well, when you say feminism, give me your definition. People, speak about it in different ways. To you, what is it about Brazil when you say feminism?
All right. Well, because somebody said, well, how does a female president affect your day to day? Like, how would a female president in Brazil affect your day to day life? And my thing is that it's a precursor to what's going to happen. So early feminism in the United States was about equal rights, equal pay, stuff like that. Now you got the Me Too movement where everything is, the legal system is weaponized against men. That's the core of feminism. Whether you're talking about Me Too, whether you're talking about um, women pretty much getting the benefit of the doubt or the upper hand all across the board from a legal standpoint.
Wasn't
And
it always that way though?
yeah, but some people, but we didn't always live in a social, what some people say, a social gynocracy. Um, so from a social aspect, women run the United States from a social aspect, and I see that trend globally. But in Brazil, I feel like it's right behind the United States. I feel like if guys are trying to as guys are trying to get away from the matriarchal uh, gynocracy that exists in the United States, they're not really getting away from it in Brazil.
Yeah, I don't like. For me, it doesn't affect my day to day. It never did, because I never saw, or I've never lived through a presidency whereby the person that was the president made some, life-changing things that affected me in a way that they directly changed my life. Right? I always feel like, there's these guardrails around the presidency where it would be different if it were a dictatorship, right? Where they could just, call the shots, they do whatever they want. But I always felt like, yeah, there would be some policies that I wouldn't agree with, or that, there's always going to be differences in policies and so forth. But I only think there were certain milestones in where things dramatically changed. We talk about like the civil rights movement, something where it was just like huge. But as far as, a female president here in Brazil, I didn't really feel anything different when there was before her, during her, or after her that stood out because she was a woman. I just I didn't feel anything different about, there being a female president.
Okay.
Yeah, not me personally, at least. But when you mentioned about the social, and so I don't know if that is directed to social as in social media, because I don't live in that world, right? That much, you know what I mean? I'm a tech person. I build websites and all that stuff, but I don't spend my time on social media that much. Like I rarely open. I maybe open Facebook once every couple of months, every month, or once a month, or once every 2 months. And I kind of get my news up from word of mouth more than anything. And then it's because for me, there was this book called The 4 Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferriss, which I read. It was part of the reason why I ended up being here in Brazil. And one of the things from there I took from that is, if it's really important, then people are talking about it.
Right. Okay.
So the things that will probably have any kind of impact on my life are things people will be talking about. Mostly everything else is just sort of, it just passes through.
Right.
You can talk about it today, maybe tomorrow I'll be gone. But the things that are really going to probably affect people's lives, those things people are actually talking about. So, that's how I know what's really going on and what's important, is what I hear people talking a lot about.
Okay. So so what me visiting Latin America extensively, I've noticed in comparison to like Africa or Asia, Latina women, well, let's say the Latinas, they are nice, but they are not submissive. You know what I mean? And even Brazilian women, when I used to talk to them, they cringed at the word submission. You know what I mean? And that's a reflection of a more that comes from feminism. You know what I mean? Having women think a certain way, anti men, anti masculinity, and it has a direct effect on a dating culture in a lot of ways. You see this in the U.S., even in Brazil. A lot of Brazilian guys struggle with dating with the modern woman, and so even though Brazil does have a great casual dating culture, you know what I mean, it does have a good hookup culture. But guys that are looking for more traditional woman, guys that are looking for basically for a more traditional woman, whether it's a housewife, whether it's traditional gender roles. A lot of Brazilian women are on that type of, they'll say we're not in the 50s and 60s anymore. Have you seen that?
So my take on it, if you're going to try to compare, is that I think whether U.S. or whether Brazil, if you tell that to a woman, you're probably going to get an almost an identical response. In other words, if you tell a woman, yeah, women should be submissive, or you should obey, or whatever the case. Even like when they're in the vows, right? The marriage vows, obey. Well, I don't even know if they took that word out, right? But if you confront them with that, nobody wants to be. That's sort of like putting somebody down, and I don't think no one's just going to be like, yeah, that's me. I'm submissive. I'll do whatever you tell me to do, right? I don't think no one's going to accept that. Not us, not them, no one, right? But I feel like in the day to day, in the reality of it, what would happen is, while I feel like Brazilian women would say that, because I feel like every woman would say that,
Mm-hmm.
in practice, they don't buck that. In other words, that's not how it is day to day when you're with them. So
Mm-hmm.
their behavior is more of, you know, king queen. I feel
Right.
like it's more like king queen, and king and queen, and not king and king.
Okay. 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 So you're saying so you're saying that they'll naturally be traditional without you having to tell them to do it in so many ways.
Yeah, I feel like it's more complimentary and not a fight. Let's just
Okay.
put it that way. I feel like it's not more of, I wear the pants. No, I wear the pants. No, hey, I'm the man, so I'm supposed to run things. No, you don't. I'm a woman, and I can run things too. I don't feel like we're trying to battle out who's supposed to be submissive, who's supposed to be the dominant one in the relationship. I don't feel
Right.
like that. I never felt that in Brazil. I always felt more like it was a complimentary thing. Like, yeah, I need you because you bring this and I don't bring that. But you need me because I bring this and you don't bring that. I felt like it was more like that. You know what I mean? Like I felt like it wasn't, oh, you can't make it without me and I can't make it without you. It
Right.
was more like, I'm better with you than
Mm.
without you. Yeah, you don't need me. You're not gonna die if I'm not in your life, and I'm not gonna die if you're not in mine. But it was more like I said, more like a complimentary thing, like whereas in the reality, or if you ask a woman, well, yeah, you obey your husband? And I think the wording, the way you would say it, it'd probably be like, well, if it sounds like you're putting me down, then yeah, no, I don't. That's not the case.
Okay. Let me shout out to my homie International Zoe. He said the feminism is not such in the governing of the country initially. It is in the hearts and minds of the people. See planet. Next phase will be political. Same thing happened in America. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Um, Salute to International Zoe. My follow up question to you would be, well, because you alluded that most women worldwide would kind of balk at the idea, but I mean, from my experience, Asians and a lot of African women, they don't really take offense to being asked if they're submissive, or you being more assertive with like your masculinity, so to speak. I guess what would because obviously every country is not for everybody, but let's say a guy that has this alpha mentality, this dominant mentality, will Brazil be the ideal country for him if he's coming with that mindset? Like,
I think it's all about. I think it depends on how that's expressed,
okay,
right? Because I feel like I'm an alpha male, right?
right,
But but I also don't. Well, I'm not walking around like, hey, doing this either. I'm King Kong, you know.
right, right,
I'm not carrying myself like that. It's almost um, like a wealthy person isn't walking around with wealth all spread across their body usually, right?
right,
Like they got money, they can do probably whatever the hell they want to do, but you might look at them and they don't look like it. They're not walking around with gold around and this and you know what I mean. But they are, but they just don't carry themselves that way, right? And so I feel like I'm an alpha male, but since I know that and because I'm able to get things done and the way I need to get them done, I don't have to like sort of brag about it or show it. It's like I feel like I'm always like this. If you're good at something you do, then you don't have to run around saying I'm good at it. People are gonna know it. It's gonna be shown, and people are gonna see it. And so I think if you're an alpha male, if you're an alpha male that's out there like trying to like, yeah, I gotta prove that I'm an alpha male, then you probably really ain't an alpha male. You probably got all kinds of insecurities that you're trying to, get somebody to validate and convince you, agree with you that you are. But I think real alpha males just, they carry themselves a certain way.
No, I do think that feminism, how I view feminism empowers women to cheat without consequences. So what I mean by that is that in more patriarch societies, women do cheat everywhere, but it's more consequential. Whether it's like divorce laws, certain laws in Africa, if the couple splits, the man keeps the children. In like West African countries, Kenya passed the law saying that they reformed the way assets are given. Like a man doesn't necessarily have to give up half his assets in a divorce if the woman wasn't a good wife. But in America, and what I see in Brazil is that because women cheat in Brazil, but they can cheat more freely because there's no financial consequences. Where what I mean, basically, like if she cheats on her rich husband, she still before she would be on the street with nothing. Now, if she cheats on this guy that's taking care of her, what I mean, a lot of times she still could still be good financially, like after a divorce or something like that. So women can be more freely to cheat without any consequences or repercussions. And feminism has opened that up. That's something I see in a lot of feminist
Wasn't
society.
it always that way? Like I said, that kind of thing to me doesn't sound like some feminist movement. It was always that way. Maybe could it be? Let me ask you this: could it be that it's just more known about, almost like? And I say I don't know if this is true or not. I'm just saying,
Uh-huh.
just like if some like when people saw, black people getting beat like Rodney King, and they saw,
Mhm.
all the violence against black people, and they were like, shocked. And we
Mhm.
were black people. We were like, this ain't nothing new.
Yeah,
So like to them, it was new. Like it's just starting up. This America wasn't like this before. It's like, no, this has always been going on. Y'all didn't know about it.
back in, I mean, I didn't live back then, but back in, let's say the days of the color purple, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Women didn't have the freedom to cheat without repercussion. The laws just wasn't set up that way. They had to be in these.
Well, shouldn't we both have repercussions if we cheat? No.
Yeah, I mean, we should, but we should. It's like if a man cheats and he got money, right? It, what I mean, he at the end of the day, he still walks away with something. Back in the day, if a
But
woman,
think about what you just said. Think about what you just said. You already implied that in a cheating relationship, it's only going to be with a man who's got money and a woman who doesn't.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
There are no relationships where women have money and the man doesn't.
Well, if a woman has money, I don't know any situation where a woman has money and a man doesn't. If you mean if he doesn't have money or if he doesn't cheat?
Well, I mean, who's the breadwinner? I mean, in all relationships, I know lots of relationships here in Brazil where the woman makes more than the man. So I don't know if what you're implying is that this is the backdrop of this a man making more money than the woman type of relationship only.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is that feminism helped create laws that give women more that incentivize women, right? So so like let's say back in the day where the man was the breadwinner, woman obviously had to she stayed in the marriage because he paid for everything. There was not really a lot of jobs catered towards women because a lot of the jobs back then were more labor intensive, and so you had more women that stayed in situations for whatever reason. And
Mm-hmm.
so, in those instances where a woman may have cheated, she could be thrown out on the street, literally. And I mean, there's no government assistance, there's no alimony. Even if she was contributing to the household and being a good housewife outside of her cheating, she would, I mean, the consequences for her cheating would be very severe. Whereas now, in that same dynamic, if she cheated, she can still walk away with half. And she cheated, she can still walk away if there's no prenup. She can still walk away with half. Um, you know, walking away with basically money. You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
still a win. It's still a win
Well,
in that situation.
but you just mentioned something that if you're an alpha male and that's something that you're concerned about as a man, then you should have the prenup. Right? If that,
Well, the prenup only cover you to what you have at that moment. But like if you start making more money after the marriage, then you have to split that difference,
right,
whatever you make after the prenup.
right.
You know, but it's still a win-win for a woman that cheats in a feminine society. You know,
Okay.
spaces and places said no, it wasn't always that way. Ontario says same in America. International Zoe said it also depends on the age group of the women. The younger women's mindset definitely feminist. A female pointed out an influence who was a feminist, and she was so proud to see and support her. Yeah, I mean, I see feminism is spreading everywhere, but I do see, and we're gonna get into the Brazil family court system. Jesse Ville mentioned you cannot have a great casual hookup culture and a great traditional marriage culture. You are going to have to make a trade off in each country. Yeah, either traditional or casual hookup. Whack 100 says, hold on. He said, Skylar, ignore this when you brought it up during the show. Yeah, yeah, he did deflect from that. So, um, the family court system. So, my other arguments that Brazil is a Matrix 2.0 is that the United States has treaties with a list of countries that, as it pertains to like family court, called the Hague Convention. I don't know if you're familiar with the Hague Convention countries and for child support. Let me see if I
No.
can Google that real quick. But
Okay.
Brazil is one of those countries that has signed a treaty with the United States with the Hague Convention, meaning that whatever judgment that you get in Brazil, the United States can enforce it, which means that your passport privileges could be in jeopardy if you got in arrears in child support in Brazil, or if you violated any type of Brazilian court order. It could jeopardize your passport. Now, some people will say, well, why would you not be paying your child support? And that's not really the point I was trying to make. The point I was trying to make is that the government, by Brazil having that treaty, you're not really leaving the United States federal jurisdiction as it pertains to family court in Brazil.
So are you talking about child support in the U.S. and you not paying it there and being living here?
No, I'm saying that if you have a child in Brazil
Mhm.
and you get a child support court order, a custody order, or alimony, anything that entails family court, the UN, the treaty allows the United States to enforce that. You know what I mean? So in the United States, if you're behind, we're going to use child support for example.
Okay.
If you're behind $2,500 or more in the United States, you cannot either renew your passport or obtain a passport. Now, if you got a passport and it's still valid, you can still travel on that. But once it expires and it's time to renew, or if you're trying to get your passport for the first time,
Mhm.
your passport privileges are restricted. Also, they can garnish wages, they can put liens on property. Some states, they will suspend your driver's license, which I don't know why they would do that. Or you can face imprisonment.
That's not new though. Are you talking about?
No, that's in the United States, but I'm saying that if guys, put it like this, a lot of the motivation for guys that are done with dealing with women in the U.S. is because it's too many law, it's too many. The government has too much involvement in the family court system, and guys don't want to risk their livelihood having children in the U.S. or even getting married in the U.S. where divorce is incentivized and is very punitive on both hands. So there's valid reasons why guys don't want to get married or have children in the United States. So if they're leaving the United States on that premise, they're pretty much putting themselves in that same situation if they live in Brazil, because Brazil has the same, with the treaty, the same governance is the same.
Okay.
So I want
So,
to
so are you saying that they're looking for somewhere where they could go and not pay child support and not have
no, no, no. What I'm saying,
repercussions? I mean, I'm trying to figure out how is that. What's the relevance, in other words, to say, oh well, if your government can take your passport if you don't pay your child support, they do that in Brazil too. So don't go there because if you don't pay your child support, you're gonna lose your passport. I just don't know if there what the relevance is there. I mean, because I know in Brazil, if you don't pay your child support, yeah, you can go to jail. You can be arrested. It's probably the one thing, that the law will enforce, right? But at the same time, if you have a child support mandate here in Brazil and you leave the United States, is not going to be able to enforce that child support order from Brazil.
all right. So the relevance is, and shout out to Ronan Travels. He said, I would say it's not only feminism, but the shame that is getting that is getting less for being an immoral woman with not consequences from the family or religion. Yeah, yeah, I agree with that. So let me read some of the countries on this list real quick. So
Okay.
countries participating in this. So this was last updated in 2007. So this is the international recovery of child support and other forms of family maintenance. So
Uh-huh.
you have. I'm not going to read all the countries because most of the countries are European countries, but the ones that are non-European countries. Um, You got Botswana, you got Brazil, um, wow, Burkina Faso, that's on there. Cabo Verde,
Mhm.
Dominican Republic is on here, which we seen in a child support case in DR. Um,
So let me be clear. So this is you're saying this list here is to say that
Philippines on here. Shit, uh huh.
Is
Go ahead.
this here is to say that child support? This strictly for child support? This what we're talking about here? This list?
Yeah, child support and family maintenance, whatever that means.
Okay. So is this to say that okay, you have a child support order in Brazil, you go back to the United States, you don't pay it here, the United States can collect that money on behalf of Brazil? Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
yes.
Okay. And vice versa.
Vice versa. Yeah.
Okay. So I don't expect you would see that happen in practice. And the reason why I say that is
Mm,
because since, as I told you, I speak from firsthand experience and not from theory.
right.
When I was uh, doing child support with my daughter, because I have a daughter here, right? For
Hmm.
background, for since not everybody knows my situation, so I do have a daughter, biological daughter here in Brazil, and that for that reason, I also get to stay in Brazil as a permanent resident, right?
Right.
And so, and so for me, I'm always a person that because I have kids in the United States as well, right?
Mhm.
Adult children now, like 35. And so, but when they were kids, right, I went through that whole child support thing and whatnot. And I know a lot of people that had to go through it too, and go through the problem of back child support, right? Like
Right.
they, by the time they got caught up with it, they owed from years before that maybe they didn't even know about, right?
Right.
But the woman received that money, then they got to pay it back, right? So for me, I'm like, you know what? I already know about child support and all that stuff. I've been down that road because I did it in the United States. So I said, I want to make sure when I do things, I do them on the up and up. I don't want anybody coming back years from now saying you never helped, you never did for you anything for your child or any of that stuff. So I took her to court to pay child support.
Mm.
Right. So I took her to court for me to pay child support. I didn't take her to court because I wanted her to pay child support. No, I wanted to make sure that me paying child support and me taking care of my daughter was documented and was handled legally so that there would never be any time in the future where if I was giving her money outside of the court, that she could come back and say, you know what? He never gave me anything.
Mm.
Like, and so now I did, and now I get looked at all bad, and now I gotta pay back child support, but I was paying her, and maybe I didn't keep the records or whatever right or something, who knows? But I'm like, you know what? I'm taking you to court for both child support and visitation. Now, when I took her to court and the judge was setting the values and all that stuff of the child support, the judge also let her know that, hey, when you have a child in Brazil, to be able to stay, you have to also show that you're taking care of that child. So you have to show that you can't just have a child and then neglect the child,
Right.
right? So now you have to show that you're taking care of the child. Now, what the judge told the mother at the time was, hey, look, you know, stop fighting against him as far as um, him paying child support and taking care of his daughter. He's like, because if you don't help him to stay here, and he can't stay here, right? Because you can't stay here on a tourist visa. And
Right.
at that point, I'm still on a tourist visa. I'm trying to get my permanent one, but this was part of the process, showing that I'm taking care of my daughter and getting all that stuff in the system. So it's like the judge was like, if you don't help him to stay here, to do this, to get everything right, then he can't stay here because legally he won't be able to stay on that visa, on that tourist visa. And if he can't stay here and he has to go back, she was like, I can't do anything about that. And you're going to get nothing. Right.
Mm.
So this is the judge basically giving her the advice of, stop, like don't fight against him, work with him. He was like, your daughter, my daughter, this time my daughter was probably like 6 years old. And
Mm.
of course, I only speak English with her since she was little. And so my daughter, the judge saw that and was like, look, your daughter is learning English. Like these are good things, right?
Right.
That you should want. You know what I mean? And you should not want him to not be around and all this stuff. And if you don't help him, right, then you could end up with nothing, and your daughter won't have her father, and no one wins in that situation. right?
No,
But she mentioned that she could not do anything if I had to leave and I was gone and I was back to the United States, that she could not enforce that child support. So while it may be something that could be in the documents, it's
mhm.
not something that probably even the judges are even aware that that thing even exists. So that's why I'm saying there's one thing between the reality and then there's the day to day, what people and how things actually run.
Now, my only, all right. So with that, because I made a statement to what you kind of reference that women, if a woman, if she sees an opportunity where she can get more, she will try it. She will try you. You know what I mean? Some guys are like, man, they gonna be cool, whatever you give them or whatever the order is. But you mentioned that she was trying to get more than what initially that you were that she was trying to get more money, correct?
She was trying to get more money, right? And so now, to me, you also got to look at like what's the motives behind it too, right? So because it's one thing if someone's trying to survive,
Hmm.
right? And then there's the other thing is if someone is trying to thrive, and then the other thing is if someone's trying to be vindictive,
Mm.
right? So you got to look at, well, what's the motives behind it? Sometimes it could be it's not a matter of just having more money. It's a matter of punishing,
Mm.
right? To want to win and not feel like you lost, right? And then of course in Brazil, being as the poor class is probably the largest class, right? We've got rich, we got middle class, and we got poor. In the United States, we've got a large middle class, small poor, small rich relative. In Brazil, there's a large poor class, right? So it reminds me of a of a rap song. I forgot which rapper it is now, but he was talking about how having money is not everything, but not having it is.
Right, right, right,
Right.
right.
So when you don't have your even bare necessities, then you're in like survival mode, right? And not so much, thriving, you're surviving, right?
Right.
And so I looked at it from in my situation, two points. One, vindictive, right? Wanting to win, right?
Hmm.
Not wanting to feel like they lost, right? And then survival mode, right? Not having a job and not having anything. It's like, you know, so as opposed to a woman who has a job, who's got a career, who doesn't need a man, right? And still wants all this money. Doesn't need it, but
Right.
I want it. That's a different situation than somebody who's got nothing and you know has no idea how they're going to survive without a
Okay.
certain amount of money.
So on the record, Brazilian women can be vindictive.
Oh yes, very much, very much. This is the one thing that I think is I don't know if I'd say stronger, but they're more Brazilian women would more put up a fight for their man. This is, well, at least this is my opinion. I feel like a Brazilian woman would fight for her man more than an American woman would. Right.
Okay,
So this is
that's
my
fair.
personal experience. Right. So if you cheated on a Brazilian woman, I think she would be hurt to the point of trying to make you suffer and get back at you, but not necessarily to want to immediately instinctively dump you. I don't know if that's correct to put it in that way, but I feel like they would fight for their man as opposed to just say, not put up a fight for their man.
I
Right.
got
But
you.
they're very vindictive, right? They're very jealous, a lot more jealousy, right? That's one thing
Latinos are very jealous.
I've seen much more jealousy in my Brazilian relationships than I have ever seen in any of my American relationships. I don't know if I've ever even witnessed it to the point where it might have been that they might be more hiding. I think women in the United States, for me, tend to hide their feelings a little bit more.
That's true.
You
So
know,
I got a couple questions, but they all relate to the same thing. So First question was Brazil's child. They say in Brazil, child support is cheaper. Season Swag said, "What percentage of your monthly income of child support in Brazil?"
There is
Uh,
no percentage, so
how
there's
much?
no fixed. Oh, you have to pay this or that. It's whatever the judge and and you agree upon, right? Whatever the judge puts down there, right? So there's no fixed amount. So like when I had my first when I took my when I put my process to get to pay child support with my daughter's mother, right? The court came back with a recommendation, right? They were like, okay, here is what we recommend that you pay. It wasn't an obligation, it was what they recommended, right? And so at the time, and of course we got the dollar, which is stronger than the reais and the exchange rate and all this. So yeah, when you say cheaper though, yeah, definitely if you're saying taking American dollars and applying it here into child support in Brazil, yeah, it's gonna be cheaper because it's dollar exchange rate, it's already stronger already. But if you were living off of Brazil's income, if you were living off the Brazilian, source of income, then it's still expensive. It will be expensive to you. So it depends on what point of view you're looking at, right? So now when they gave me the recommended amount, I wasn't doing it to lower or any of that stuff. I was fine, right? I was like, okay, this is what you guys think I should pay. I'll pay that, right? And so when I got there, and the judge said, yeah, this is what we think you should pay, and she was arguing for more, and then the judge was like, and the judge was like, can you pay more? And I was like, no. I said, you guys told me this is what I should pay. I'll pay that. What's the argument here, right? There's no argument. The courts, you guys, sent me this and said you need to pay this. I'm willing to pay what you told me I need to pay, and that's it. Let's done. Let's wrap this up, right? And she was like, no, she want more money. And I was like, and the judge said, well, can you do this and do that? And I said, no, yeah, I'll pay for half of all of her school expenses and half. I was like, throwing out things that I would do besides that amount,
Right.
to help my daughter, right? Half her medical stuff, half her school stuff. I listed a bunch of stuff, and then she still, like I said, then she wanted more, and the judge got pissed at her because we went through the whole thing. The judge had written up all the paperwork and all that, and then she changed her mind and said she didn't want it, right? And the judge was pissed. The judge,
So why did she want more because for because she didn't feel like it was enough to take care of her child, or did she want more because she felt like you could pay more?
she wanted more because she felt like I could pay more, right?
Okay.
Which I could have paid more. I'm not gonna lie, I could have paid more, but why would I pay more? I wasn't paying what wasn't reasonable, because if it wasn't reasonable, the court wouldn't have told me to pay that amount. All right. And I always felt like this. I always felt like for me, it wasn't about could I pay more or not. It was making sure I wanted to have control over where the money went. Right. So when you pay child support, you don't necessarily have control over how that's being spent exactly, right? And so when if my daughter, if the idea, right, if we're saying that the child support is to take care of my daughter, I was already well aware that my daughter wasn't going to need anything, whether we were in that court establishing child support or not. If she needed something, I would make sure she had it, right? But raising the amount I give her mother isn't going to make that situation any better, right? I can only hope it would, but I got no. There's nothing that says it has to. Nothing that says that my daughter's lifestyle gets better. Her mother's has to come along with it.
Now, did you need an attorney during that process, or it was or
I had an attorney initially, right? Because like anything, I don't think if you're going to deal with something in the court, you don't want to go in there, not knowing the laws, right? So when I first set it all up, I was like, yeah, I got to have a lawyer because I don't know anything about Brazilian law and all that stuff. Of course, once I got the lawyer and then I got in there and we started digging through, I started being able to pick her brain and learn. So when I went back for the second time, because like I said, we had to redo another date because she didn't want to accept the offer. When we came back the second time, I didn't have a lawyer. I didn't come back with the lawyer, right? I said, okay, we want to play this game of get more. I'm like, okay, let's play, right? So I came back and I was like, look, Your Honor, like, no, do you have counsel? No, I can't afford a lawyer anymore. So I gotta do this on my own. I was like, so now she comes back, and so you gotta understand that the law courts, they operate on proof. You can't just say something, you gotta prove it, right? And so she ended up hurting herself, right? Because what I had offered initially, I took it back. I said, no, the judge was like, so are you still willing to do this, this, this? And I was like, no, I'm not. Because it was like, I offered to do that stuff, right? And I'm like, I offered, and now you want to, try to dig more out. Now, guess what? Now you ended up getting less. So she ended up getting less than what she was going to get before because all the other stuff was me offering it. I said, no, let's just go back down to where we were before. The court said, this is all I need to pay. Let's do it. So the judge couldn't argue.
Now, this is what trips a lot of women up because those situations happen in the U.S. You agree with something outside the courts, or you're willing to do a certain amount outside the courts. Once you get the courts involved and the courts offer less than what you was going to do, then she calls you a deadbeat. Even though the court made the decision, she still calls you a deadbeat. Maybe she doesn't want to see your child. And then some women or some men would make the argument and will say, well, if the child support is low, even though it's court ordered, you still should do more if you can. So, you know what I mean? So people have their opinions on that.
To me, it's like, is your daughter being taken care of? Is your son being taken care of? That's what at the end of the day, this is all about. So, I could care less what someone would, if she said, oh, you're a deadbeat and all that stuff, you can say whatever you want to say, but is my daughter happy, right? And so this is where, it really doesn't matter what she thinks as long as my daughter is well taken care of, right? In my case, my daughter. So yeah, it doesn't matter what she thinks. My daughter's happy. My daughter knows she's being well taken care of, so she can say whatever she wants to say or feel however she wants to feel. In the eyes of the court and in the eyes of my daughter, everything is beautiful.
That's a good point. Shout out to Season Swag for the $5 super chat, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, that's a good point, man. Like you said, in the eyes of the court of law and in the eyes of your daughter, if they're being taken care of, that's all that matters. It shouldn't matter what nobody else think. You know what I mean?
So it doesn't matter what nobody else thinks. If I had my daughter here and you ask her, does your father take care of you? She'll be like, yeah, my daddy takes very good care of me. Does your father teach you things? Yeah, every week, just so you know, every Wednesday, my daughter calls me and I help her with her math homework, right? Because she doesn't live with me; she lives with her mother. Her mother has, full custody. We have joint custody, but she lives with her mother. And so, but she's here every other weekend. So, and so I took her to court twice, right? Because the legal system that does the child support, the pension, doesn't handle the visitation. So I had to take her to court a second time to establish visitation rights, right? So I wanted to make sure both of those things were legally, taken care of.
Wow. So you got to go to two different court hearings, one for child support and one for visitation.
And one for visitation. They're two separate things, exactly. So and I took her to both, right? Because I wanted to have, I wanted to make sure she couldn't run off and not let me see my daughter. Because now, of course, if she does that, just like I can't just run off and not pay, she also can't just run off and disappear my daughter, or she's going to have her problems with the law, right? So, we both need to be held accountable for our parts,
Wow. Okay, I got a couple of questions, man. So was the judge, was it a male or female?
It was a female judge. She was a female judge. She said she was a mother and a grandmother.
For which one? For the child support or the visitation?
for the child support. The
So
visitation was actually a man.
okay. So a female judge recommended an amount that you felt was fair,
Yeah,
and she's the one that scolded her on accepting it.
exactly. She told her, she said, look, you need to accept this. She's like, because it's fair, and if you don't, he could potentially have to be deported and he won't be here at all. And if he's not here, then I can't help you. And you probably will get nothing.
Mm.
Right. So she said, don't fight against him. She said, because if he's going to stay here, and this is like she's trying to give her some guidance, right? She's like, if he's going to stay here and he starts making more money, you can ask for more after that. Right. She's like, but if he's not here, he's not going to be able to make any money here. He's going to leave, then you could end up getting nothing. Uh-oh. Are you still there? Did I lose you? I don't know if I'm in here with everybody and we lost our host, or if I got booted out and the host is gonna have to bring me back in. I'll wait. Somebody could leave a message that'll let me know if I'm still live on the air or if I'm not, I guess. Let me leave a message. Let me see. It's not my internet, is it? I'm still connected to the internet. Check.
Yo, I don't know
Oh,
what. Can
are
you
you
hear me?
back? Yeah, I can hear you now. What happened?
Man, I don't know, man. My the Wi-Fi tripped out, man. Excuse me, fellas. Let me get back. Let me get back in you, man.
Okay, so were you the only one gone, and I'm still here with everybody else, or was I gone?
All right. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, man. You know,
So
technology.
so so did you leave it, and I was here with everybody, or did I get kicked out?
No, I left and I was with everybody.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Dang,
So then,
lost my questions. All right.
what was it? Where are we at now? The question?
Oh yeah, so you was talking about the female. You were
Yeah.
talking about
So
the female
yeah.
judge.
So she was a grandmother and a mother, and she told her, you need to help him because if he stays in at work, then and he
That's
works
it.
here and he makes more money, then you can ask for more money if he starts making more money. But if you don't help him and he has to leave because he doesn't have permanent residency here, then there's nothing I'll be able to do, and you'll probably end up getting nothing.
Mm. What was the question I was gonna ask? It'll come back to me. TF said that's the same as America. Two different court dates for child support and
Yeah.
visitation.
Because in the States, I never did the visitation. For my kids in the States, I didn't do visitation because that wasn't a problem. I didn't see that as being a problem with my kids in the States. But I felt like here it could be, right? So this is why I was like, you know what? I'm doing both. If
Uh,
it's,
sh- Shout out to HB Real. Yeah. He lives in Brazil. He
yeah, I've
lives in
been
Brazil.
I've been living in Brazil since 2009. So how many years is that now? I don't even know anymore.
Oh yeah,
10 years, 15 years, 14 years, somewhere around there. Yeah,
that's good.
15 years, right? 2009, 5, 4, yeah. So I've been there 15 years.
Let me catch up on the chat. So yeah, they're a little crazy with that because they can't admit they're wrong. So you got to be a little crazy with them. All right. Yeah. So yeah, I'm surprised, man. I'm surprised that you said she was a female judge because I was just gonna ask would have been different if it was a female judge, but so she was fair. Now, how do you think she came up with that amount? Because I initially thought it was based off of a system of
So
cost of
I'll tell
living.
you, I'll tell you why I came. That amount is a minimum wage. So I was paying her a minimum wage salary, right?
Mm.
So So if you were in the United States and today, and a judge ordered you for child support to pay a minimum wage salary, that's what happened, right?
Hold on, say that again. You said they came to that. They came to that number based off minimum wage.
Because it's a minimum wage salary.
All right, so whatever the minimum wage is in Brazil, that is what they base the check.
That's what I paid to this day for child support. So every year, minimum wage goes up. So every year, I pay more.
Okay. Now it was a comment, man. What he say? he
So
said
cheaper.
he said you sound like you're being cheaper with your daughter. So,
Yeah, like how, I have no idea. It really, like I said again, it doesn't really matter. I take good care of my daughter. My daughter's happy. The difference is I don't want to put my money to take care of my daughter in the hands of somebody else. I want it to be in my hands where I know it's taking care of my daughter. Right. So everybody can have their own perspective of who's supposed to be, making sure the money gets spent. So like in this case right now, so the minimum wage in Brazil right now is like 1,420 reais a month, right?
mhm.
And so that's what I pay her.
And
But
dollars
besides
and what? And dollars.
the dollars right now, divide that by 5, right?
You said 1,400.
1420. So do it as 1420. And so now I give her that. But then of course that's not all. It's not like I give her that and then I'll go, okay, and now everything else we have to split. No, when my daughter's here and she tells me she needs something, I get it to her. She goes, Dad, I need a computer. Let's get you a computer then. You need a computer for school? Let's get one for you. Dad, I want to get, new clothes. Let's go get some new clothes for you, right? If there's things that she needs, irrespective of whether her mother is getting them for her or not, then I'm going to get them for her, right? And that's the beauty of me being in the situation I am, is that you may in the States have guys that are paying so much in comparison to their income that maybe they can't do anything extra for their kids because the child support is so high that they depend on the parent using it correctly and doing the right things so that the daughter has what she needs. In this case, I'm not dependent on that. I just wanted to make sure that there was no point in time where somebody came back and said, oh, you didn't take care of your child. Oh, he owes me 10 years of child support because he didn't pay anything. I just wanted to make sure it was all, properly documented and, in the system, and make sure that there was no legal thing that I was doing wrong. Because morally, I already knew my daughter's going to have whatever she wants.
So,
Right?
so for clarification, so 1420 BRL is about 250 US dollars.
Yeah.
So, is that the monthly minimum wage? $250 a month in
That's the
Brazil.
monthly minimum wage.
So you was ordered to pay the monthly minimum wage, but that's not what the order would have been for a Brazilian man, I'm assuming.
It would have been probably less, right?
Because I mean that's their monthly salary if they get paid.
Exactly.
So they,
And that's why I said if you say somebody can say, oh, 250, that's cheap. It is if you're looking at dollars, but if you were here in Brazil, that's like your whole salary. If you make minimum wage, you couldn't even pay that, right? So if somebody said, oh, well, take half of that, then it's $100. But $100, if you make it 250, that's a lot. You see what I mean? It's all relative. Everything's always relative, because Brazilians aren't making that. And that's why that amount was a good amount. If you think about it, it was enough to where she could not have to work. Right?
so they factored in. So they didn't base your child because the conception was that, and people have thrown this out there, is that let's say if you're an American, the child support is going to be based off of, and this probably alludes to your question, HB. It's based off of what the locals would pay. So you got I don't want to say tax, but you got tax based on you being a U.S. citizen. Because if you was a Brazilian,
no, it wasn't even that. So here's the thing, right?
Mhm.
Like most things, child support is negotiable, right? So, and anytime you are going to into a negotiation, you almost never start a negotiation with what you want.
Right.
That would be dumb.
Right.
Right? You're always going to come in high because you expect that it's going to come down to where you want in the negotiation, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the child support was at that amount. I don't think they expected that I was going to accept it. Right? I don't think they expected that I was going to accept it.
Mm.
They expected there to be a battle, right? They expected me to want to reduce it down and all that. And this is why they were kind of caught off guard. And that's why I was like, that's why I'm sitting there like, come on, let's get this over with. You guys, imagine that. The judge said, you should pay this. And I go, okay, I agree with you. Let's wrap it up.
Wow. So you could have negotiated down if you wanted to.
I could have negotiated it down and the reason why is because you got to remember, I have no source of income in Brazil to this day. Right. So if I don't have any source of income in Brazil, how can you prove as a Brazilian what my income is? Right. So I could have, all I had to do was say, look, I got no income. I got no job. You got to lower this.
Well, they're going to say, well, how are you supporting yourself in Brazil?
That's easy. I could be like, my mother, my family take really good care of me. They're supporting me while I try to get my stuff off the ground. Like it's easy to come up with a story for that, right? I'd be like, look, this is what I can't stay here if this doesn't get taken care of, I'm going to have to leave and I'm not going to be able to make any money in here, but I can't get a job. So you got to think about it. I would love to work, right? I could tell the judge, I would love to work, but I can't work unless I got a permanent residency. I can't work. You can't work on a tourist visa. Right? What am I going to do? I'm going to tell the judge, yeah, I'm working. What? You're working and you must be working illegally.
Right.
Because you're here on a tourist visa, right? So how could she argue, you should have, I think you have a job. Your Honor, are you saying I'm working illegally here just because I must be? Like, right. No, like I said, so the judge, that's why I said that's why the judge was trying to tell her, look, you need to help him because he can't even work unless he gets this situation taken care of. You want more money, but he can't even have a job.
Let me read the super chat. HB Gone Global, bro. Appreciate the $3 super sticker, man. Always appreciate it. This kind of made me laugh. He said, female judge in America would have cooked his ass. You ain't lying.
Well, see, but here's the situation. I would agree with that depending on the circumstance. In other words, if the female judge told you to pay $5,000 a month child support and you walked in there and said, let's do it, I'll pay $5,000. That female judge wouldn't have cooked you then. How could she cook you? You did what she wanted. Yeah. She's now, happy with you. Because you got to think about it. That's more or less what I did. I mean, what's the minimum wage in the United States right now? What's somebody's, what is it? Maybe 4,000 or 3,000 a month? What's the minimum wage in the United States right now? A month?
I think the federal minimum wage month, I think it's still it's crazy low. Let me look real quick.
It's what, like $15 an hour, $10 an hour? What is it?
I think it's $7.25. The federal minimum wage. Certain states have different minimum wages.
All right. So let's just say we did $8 an hour. 8 times 8 is 64, and we do that times 25.
So right. It's $7.25 per hour. Let me just do this right. $7.25.
So let's just say this. So let's just say the judge said, yeah, you got to pay, $1,500 a month, and you said, okay.
That's it's about 13. Let's say it's about $1,300 a month. But all right. So let's just say 1,500. So yeah, 1,500 a month would be a lot for most men to pay child.
Exactly. So and this is what I'm saying. So if you walked in there and the judge ordered you to pay that, and you walked in and said okay, then it's like what?
Okay.
Right.
So all right. So I'm trying to just capture every little nuance. You know what I mean? So
Right.
you had a female judge.
Yeah.
She threw out an amount based on the monthly minimum wage, something
Mhm.
that the judge believed you could possibly pay, but that wouldn't have been something she would have threw out for a local man. So so you being an American was factored in some way somehow. You know what I mean when she threw that amount out there because
Well, I don't know that the judge threw it out there because I got a notice in the mail for the date and the amount came in the mail,
okay.
right? So it wasn't something that she brought up as, I want you to pay this. No, no, it wasn't that. It came in the mail what the amount that was recommended by the courts. So it may not have been her personally that came up
Mm.
with that amount. So I got a letter in the mail saying, here's the date, here's where it's going to be. Here's the recommended amount that the court is assigning for you to pay for child support. And so I just got there and was like, okay.
So you got a lot of guys that will say, I wish New York Kings was here because he's the one that was talking about, oh, I got a Brazilian. This. Somebody summons NYC Kings if y'all know how to get him because I want to challenge him on some things he was saying. But anyway, so a man can't really predict what's going to happen. So if you're consulting somebody or they're saying, man, bro, I got this chick pregnant in Brazil. You know what I mean? Like what's going to happen? How much would I have to pay? What would you tell them if they have all these questions? Like how much they're gonna have to pay in child support?
I would say I personally would say, okay, first and most, take them to court. Like, don't wait for them because that also is going to be in your favor, right? Because most men, even in Brazil, they don't take the mother to court. Most of the time, it's the mother going after the father for child support. You know what
Mm.
I'm saying? So I would say, establish that up front, take her because not only that, but if you still want to stay in Brazil, that's going to be your permanent residency,
Now,
right?
all right. So he takes your advice. He files the court for child support.
Exactly.
Then he's going to get some letter notification with an
Yeah,
amount
exactly.
for that.
He's going to the process is going to get in the notice in the mail for the date, right? After he files his petition to request for child support or pay child support or visitation or whatever it is, then he's going to get the notice in the mail, and that notice is going to come with an amount that the court is asking recommends that he pay, and then at that point he gets to decide if he likes that amount, he's okay with that, or if he wants to hire a lawyer and try to get it down, right?
So the next question is, all right, how much with that note? If he asks you how much do you think that notice would be, would you be able to really give him an answer on that?
Today, how much they would recommend him to pay?
Yeah.
I think it would be a minimum wage. I think it would be 1,420 hash. That's what I think it would be.
Okay.
I
Okay.
think that's their baseline. So at the time, it was less because again, every year the minimum wage goes up.
Okay, fellas. So you could at least expect the initial offer to be equal to the monthly minimum wage in Brazil. Okay.
Exactly. That's what I would put as your baseline. Don't expect it to be less than that. Because and the reason why I would say that is because my girl, right, technically my wife, right? Because when you live with someone in Brazil, it's almost immediate that you have a common law marriage. And so she had one of her daughters had she just went to court like last week
Hmm.
for the same thing. And so her daughter, biological daughter, lives with the father. And so she was ordered to pay child support, right?
Mm.
And so she paid 20% of minimum wage.
Mm.
So because she went with a lawyer, and the lawyer negotiated down to 20% of minimum wage. Right. So if you think about it, I could have probably negotiated down something like that too. Right. But again, I didn't negotiate it down because I wasn't really there to dispute the child support. I was there to move everything forward, to get it done with. Just put everything in the system, get it legal, do it right, show that I'm taking care of my daughter, and do all that stuff, and move on. I wasn't there trying to create some battle over the amount and all that. It was her that ended up trying to create that.
HB Gun Clubber got a question. He said, that shed light in your situation. What would it be like if you live in the U.S. but the child is in Brazil? How would they calculate support?
How would Brazilians calculate support or the U.S. calculate child support? If you're talking about Brazil, Brazil's going to still base it off of minimum wage. I think that's their baseline is minimum wage. And so if you look talking about the Brazilian courts, what they're going to base it on, because it wasn't like they took anything into account. So you have to think about it. When they sent that to me, they had taken nothing into account, right? It's like they didn't know if I'm working, what I'm doing, how much I make. They were like, here, we think you should pay this, and it was minimum wage. And then that was what, 7 years ago. My girl who went last week, what did they throw at her? Minimum wage. Right? They threw her the same minimum wage they threw at me 7 years ago to her, but she, with her lawyer, negotiated down to 20% of that amount.
Now, I don't know the specifics. It was a New Jersey case, and it was a Dominican Republic. I don't know if it was the Dominican Republic had a court order and they got the U.S. to enforce it, or I don't know if the woman was able to file in the New Jersey court system and base it on something else. If anybody knows that situation, let me know. But is there an instance where she could have hired, let's say if you was living in the United States and she was able to hire a U.S. attorney and file child support in the state wherever you in the state that you could have been in the U.S. Do you think that's something that could have been possibly done?
I guess it's something she could have tried to do, but number one, can you imagine the cost to do that for her, right? To hire a lawyer in the United States when you have a fifth of the cost of money. When the $1 over there for you is 15 cents, it's like it would be hard push.
Well, in these feminist societies, they have made it such, even in divorce proceedings, they have lawyers can recoup those expenses from the person that is the breadwinner.
But think about this. A couple of things that will come into play. Number one, you're talking about somebody who doesn't speak English. So you need to find a lawyer that speaks Portuguese, or you're gonna have to get somebody. So you need to include somebody else in this story, unless you happen to find a lawyer that speaks Portuguese that practices law in the United States, right? So that's number one. Number two is the court system is slow, even in the United States. It's slower in Brazil. Just to give you an idea, I actually entered in a process for custody of my daughter. All right, I wanted to have full custody of her, or she lives with me. That was 8 years ago. That process is still going.
What? An 8-year custody?
8 years ago.
Proceed.
So this is what I'm saying. So things are slow too, right? So not things on. And in Brazil, like I said, they move slower in Brazil than they do in the States, and things in the court move slower in the States too.
8 years, man, golly. Is there a common law marriage in Brazil?
Yes, there is. It's common law marriage, and effectively, when you live with a woman, you effectively are becoming married. Right. So in Brazil, if a woman wanted to prove that you guys are married or wanted to establish a common law marriage, she just has to show that you intended for that relationship to be permanent, right? And so that's why, if she moves in with you and you guys live together, that's about as permanent as it gets. Right? So there's I mean, there may, and this is why I said there's the reality and then there's the practice. There could be something in the books that has a date, but they're not following it.
Hold on, man. These guys got me laughing. Rocket said, "There goes my GFE." Hold on. Let me get a couple of his comments, man. Let me see. L.A. Detroit said, "Was he ever married to the Brazilian?" He said, "Married before carrying. Young man, watch where you plant your seed." I don't know if you want to share this, if that was strategic or
Well, no,
not.
I don't have a problem sharing. No, we weren't. It depends on how you consider the marriage, right? So if you consider Brazilian law, yeah, we were married. Because once we were living together. We've been living together for probably over a year, a couple of years maybe. So yeah, and that statement, to be honest, to me, just kind of reminds me of it really doesn't matter, right? I mean, let's say I did get married to her. Would it have changed the reason we broke up? I don't think so. I think we'd still be with the child separated. You know what I mean? So it kind of just depends on, how you think about things, right? Like for me, I'm a practical person. I just think about things in practice. Whether or not we got legally married or not wouldn't have changed who we were as people and our personalities and, our directions and drives in life. And that's probably sometimes where people make mistakes. They think after they get married, something magical is going to happen. It's not.
No, I know.
Yesterday, he's just going to have some more legal obligations.
Now I know in Colombia, common law marriage comes into effect after 6 months of cohabitation. Is there a time for it? Brazil?
There could be legally on the books. I don't know, but I would think that again, that's why we go back to what's done in practice and what's on paper. Not necessarily the same things, but I would say if you don't even want to be in that game, then don't live with anybody. Right? Don't even live with anybody, or that could come up, and who knows? The worst case could be is that your case gets dragged out so long that they count that time. Be like, it's more than 6 months now.
Wow. Shout out to Zero the Hero for the follow super chat. He said, "My Jamaican female friend gets the child support issue in the U.S., then moved to wow, damn, that's gang. Ugh. Then moved to Jamaica, man. So she living off the U.S. income, man. That's a smart move, man. That's a smart move, man. Appreciate the super chat, man.
But here's the thing, though. So it was funny because because Brazil, I'm able to stay in Brazil because of my daughter, right? This is unlike the United States.
Right.
If she were over there and had a child, she wouldn't have no rights to stay. They would be kicking her out, right? Mm-hmm. So when I went to go, so my daughter is a legal American citizen. Like I took all of the paperwork and documentation. She has a U.S. A birth certificate. She has a U.S. passport. Her passport is here. I got her passport. So yeah, so she's legit. She can go to the States whenever she wants to. Now, when we did all the passport stuff and her mother was there, it was funny to me because she was like, "Oh, now that now it's going to be easier for me to go to the United States, right?" And the judge was, the guy at the consulate was like, "No, it just got harder for you to go to the United States." She was like, "What?" He was like, "Yeah, it's going to be more difficult now." She was like, "Why is it going to be more difficult?" He said, "Because in the United States, when you go there on a tourist visa or to visit, the United States wants to know that you plan on going back." Right? They don't want you to go there with the intent to stay. They want you to go there with the intent to spend money, have a good time, and go back to your country. He's like, if the fact that your daughter will be there, your husband will be there, your family is there,
Right.
you're more inclined to want to stay there than to come back.
Right.
Right. So he said, now you just got worse. And so you got to show more, that you have more reason. You need to have a house or a long-term job, or you got to have more kids here. You got to have something that ties you here. And if you don't have any of that stuff, then you're toast on trying to get back.
Yeah, you're right. Just so people that don't know, federally, a child in the U.S., a child can petition for their parents to come to the U.S. at age 21. So if she wants to come to the U.S., she got to wait till her child is 21.
She got to wait if she wants her to. My Portuguese, I see that question. How's your My Portuguese is top notch. I'm fluent.
He fluent, man.
I actually have I own a school here, and I think, did you share the links and all that stuff already? I don't know.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna share the link.
So I have a school here. We teach 5 languages. We teach English, Spanish, German, French, and Italian. All right. So I was a teacher for a while in the beginning. Obviously, I just did that more for a while. Just because I liked it. It was more, not so much financial. Nothing that I do. I think that I focus too much on finances. I do more on because I want to do it. Let me see. Let me see if I wipe my camera.
Let me read. Shout out to Rocket Club. Appreciate the follow super chat. He said, "Y'all just saved us a lot of money."
What did he say?
He said, "Y'all just saved us a lot of money." Appreciate it. LA Detroit said, "Good answer, correction." Desan Wazi, young man, hell, I'm already subscribed. So I want to ask about the permanent residency real quick.
Well, no, it doesn't actually. It doesn't tether me, because I can still go back to the United States and live if I want. I take my daughter with me because she's an American citizen. Right. Here you go. This is what a permanent residency, I don't know if it'll focus in, looks like. Okay. So this is when you get permanent residency, you get this from the police. PF is a federal police. Carteira de Registro Nacional Migratório. So this is what you get. You see, it says validade indeterminada, so it doesn't expire.
Oh, okay.
That's why it says indeterminate, and it says resident here on the side, right?
Okay.
So yeah. So this is what you get when you have a permanent residency. Did you get a DNA test? I did not get a DNA test, but I didn't feel there was any doubt.
Let's see. All right. I'm gonna share. Let me he said I have to link it with you next time out here. So I'm gonna show what you're doing, so guys know what you're doing out in Brazil, man. So he has a language school. I'm gonna share the YouTube real quick. Let me show you guys that. So guys not just going to Brazil and just trying to smash. They guys are living and building and
yeah.
You had a good intro video. I'm trying to see if I can find that video.
They say you got the videos for Halloween there, for there's an intro video there. Let's see, which one is it? That one right there says with the white words next to the car. One to the left of the car is sort of like an intro video.
Right here?
That one right there. That one starts on the outside and then walks into the school and shows some of the game room and some of the things in there. It looks even nicer now since we've this was early on in the beginning when we opened the school up. I don't know if it's
Let me
fluid or
see.
choppy. That's my wife right there. That's my wife right there.
Yeah. Now, are most of the students, are they like young students, or do you have adult students
We,
as well?
we have students from as young as 4 years old and as old as 60 something.
Hmm.
So we don't mix the ages, right? We keep everybody the same age range. So we don't have adults with kids or teenagers with adults. We keep everybody in the same age range.
Okay. And what languages are they learning?
So we have English is the most popular, obviously, but in second place is actually French. So that's our snack area. We have a self-service snack area where they can just pick what they want, they scan it, and then pay for it. But we have English is number one, French is number two, number three is actually German, and then Spanish and Italian. I don't even think we have any Italian or Spanish classes right now. Any actual active ones. We have French, German, and English.
Now, in the chat, man, appreciate y'all super chat, man. So in the I pinned on the top, man. So uh, is it considered a nonprofit?
Well, no, it's not it's not a nonprofit in a sense. I mean, I kind of treat it that way because I don't make any money off the school. I just wanted to pay for itself. So I just kind of invest everything to make it the best it can be. The one thing that's different about Brazil, if anybody were to come here and pay good attention, you'll notice that most businesses don't really invest in their business to make it better. They just try to make the most money, right? They don't tend to have any pride. I'm a person that I need to have pride. I need to be proud of what I've done. I need to, people see it, they'd be like, wow, that's a good job. And so that stuff, that makes me feel good. So I just make the school the best I can. So we have kids that in the material, it's a franchise, just to be aware. So it's a franchise, and usually the franchise is responsible for the material. So then the franchise makes their money from the material. We make our money from the course itself. So we can mess around with the course. So I usually will lower the course as much as I can to just cover the teachers' salaries, but I can't do anything with the material. So usually the link I sent you is more to help with the material, the books. Because of the exchange rate right now, it's like $99 pays for a book for a student. And so what I do for those, because I have some people that every year they'll donate like one book every year. So once I get a book donation and I get somebody at the school and I see that the mother is, struggling and she's really, trying to do better with her kids, or, because mostly we do this with the kids, right? And so, and I see that, she's pushing and she can't do the book, but she can pay the monthly, then that's when and I have one on standby. So as people donate this money, I keep it separate so that I can, grab it as I see needed. I say, or somebody comes in, they're like, yeah, they want to enroll two kids. And they're like, yeah, but that's two books I got to come up with money for. Then I'll be like, well, if we gave you one book, could you do it? Right. I don't just offer it all, for nothing, because I still want to make sure I can help as many as I can. So and it's not like I got unlimited books either, right? So, but yeah, so that's usually what will happen. I usually have somebody that'll donate the money for book. And then what I'll do is and I think there's probably some videos on the YouTube, but to make sure that the person knows that that book went, that the money was spent on the book, I have the kid, whoever received the book, part of them receiving the book is they have to record a video in English thanking the person within their name for the book, right? So it gives them an incentive because most of the time they don't know English, so we kind of coach them on how to say just that phrase, right? And then we record them, saying thank you, Mark, for the book.
So real quick, guys, man, let's try to at least uh, raise at least $50, man. The PayPal link is pinned in the chat. Yeah, support the brother, man. $5, you know what I mean? $5, $10 could go a long way, man. So you know, I appreciate his time and him giving us game and insight. And he's doing a good thing with this language school, man. And those that love Brazil, you know, support, man. So yeah, the PayPal link is there. If anybody does send a payment, let me know in the chat so I can shout y'all out. But I just wanted to make sure guys know about this, man. But yeah, this is pretty cool, man. And I will make sure I put these links in the description so guys can get to know about that as well. And will you be if guys want to get
Good
consultation
question.
from you, man?
You want me to answer this question? Let's see. Isn't it going to be hard to get the mother's permission for you to travel with your daughter?
Yeah, yeah.
Originally, it was going to be hard because in the beginning, she didn't want to let me leave with my daughter, and it was weird because this is one of those things where it didn't make sense. So she was in the beginning, she was like, "Oh, you just had this daughter so that you could stay in Brazil." Like that was her argument. That was the reason why I had the daughter was because I got her pregnant because I wanted to be able to stay. But at the same time, she was like, "No, I don't want you to travel with her because if you're not going to come back." And I'm like, "Well, it can't be both." I
Right,
couldn't
right.
I couldn't have had a daughter so that I could stay, just so that I could leave and be, with her, kidnap her illegally in the United States. I'm like, no, it's not like so. But now, so in the beginning, of course, it was going to be hard because my daughter was young and she could, have to hear what others said. But now my daughter's 14 years old. So now
Mm,
my daughter is aware that if her mother's like, no, I'm not going to let you go, that's not going to sit well with the 14-year-old who knows that, like you can't even like, well, your father is going to kidnap you. Like, it's not going to work. You could probably say something like that for a kid, but not 14 years old. So now, and even at the point where she's at 13, the judge will hear the child's opinion at that age. So
mm.
if she wanted to go and the mother said no, and she and I took it to court, the judge would probably side with me because my daughter's going to be like, yeah, I want to go. No, my daddy's not going to kidnap me. I already know that. Don't even try it. You know what I mean? And yes, I want to meet my family because, like, she talks to she talks to her family over there, right? So that was one of the reasons why I only talked to her in English ever since she was born, so that her English is good. So she talks to my mother, so she talks to her grandmother, she talks to her brothers, right? My sons over there, talk to her aunt, so yeah. So she wants to go over there and meet them, face to face, right?
So she's bilingual fluently.
She's bilingual fluent.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's awesome, man. Let me let me get to the question I've been asked. So the permanent residency. So one of the Brazil out of all the countries I've studied, Brazil is the only country that I'm aware of that you can get residency via child. You don't have to get it via marriage. Um,
Right.
Most of these other countries we travel to, whether it's Colombia, Brazil, DR, Africa, Asia, if you have a child there, that doesn't give you a right to get
Exactly.
residency.
Right.
So with that right Brazil has, because how you were describing it, it was like she kind of had to sign off on it. Like, did she have to kind of sign off on it, or is that something that
Sign
with
off on what?
as far as you getting a residency, did she have to be okay with that?
No.
Okay.
She'd have to be okay. I just had to have the document, the birth certificate, and it's in my name, right? And
So even
so
if she didn't want you to get that benefit, there's nothing she could have did about it. If you
nothing
if
she
you
could have done about that. Nothing she could have done about that. Exactly. It had nothing to do with her.
okay.
I see a question here. Why do people who go to Brazil always choose Rio? I'll tell you one reason is because it's like LA, the weather. Rio is like the LA of Brazil. You got the best weather here in Rio. And then also because Rio, especially Copacabana and Ipanema, because they are large tourist, outside Brazil tourist areas, there's a lot of people that speak English. So when I first came to Brazil, I lived in Salvador Bahia, right? And so Salvador Bahia is not a large tourist outside of Brazil tourist, so they don't speak English there. So I couldn't stay there. I couldn't live there because at that time I didn't speak Portuguese. So it was very difficult to navigate, living there. So I left and I came here to Rio because here in Copacabana, living in Copacabana, you got a lot of people that can speak English, so you can survive. So yeah, if you're going to live somewhere, you need to, and you don't speak the language, you better go where they speak your language, or it's going to be even more challenging. Style King, what's up?
Let's see. He said,
But yeah, I think that's the reason why most people. Yep, 99 US for the book for 6 months. The book is the course is broken up in semesters, right? So every semester is 6 months. So every 6 months they advance to the next book. So they do 6 months, and that one first book is 6 months. Do I have a book here? I don't think so. But then they go to the next level. I did have a book. This is one for the adult. It's an adult book, and so the book has it has a mobile app that accompanies the book as well, right? And the one thing about our course is that it's focused on speaking. Because when I came to Brazil, right, I ended up giving classes because, again, if you don't speak the language, you better find people that speak your language. So I went to where do people going to speak English? At schools that teach English. So I went to English schools and I ended up teaching there. And when I did that, I realized that people weren't really learning English because they were trying to be the schools were trying to be jack of trades. They were teaching them how to read, write, understand, and speak, right? Everything, at the same time. And people end up being weak at all of them, right? Because they're doing a little bit of each one. But if you think about it, as people in every place in the world, we don't learn all of that at the same time, right? We learn how to speak first, right? First, before your child goes to learn any grammar, he's already talking.
Yeah.
And so speaking is what we learn first, and then we put our kids in the school to learn how to do it better and grammar, and we increase their vocabulary. Because people always ask, well, you say they can learn English in 2 years, so my child is 4, so at 6 years he'll finish the course and he doesn't have to do English anymore. I'm like, no, 6 years old, we got our 6-year-old kids in the United States still do English classes.
Right.
Because the vocabulary advances. It's not like you're done with English. Same thing here in Brazil, right? And they understand that, they still taking Portuguese all the way through to high school. It's like you're not really done. Nobody knows everything in the dictionary. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Now, does your school help people that want to speak Portuguese, or it's only foreign languages?
Only foreign language, because they speak. That's the native language here. We don't have to help them with that. They have Portuguese in high school.
For gringos, for gringos.
Yeah, no, we don't. Yeah, we don't. And that would have been nice though. There's not enough of you guys here for me to mount a course that would be able to be continuous. Because when I came there, right, I was looking for that. I'm like, how am I going to learn? So I just had to be self-taught. Right, you have to learn hands-on out there in the streets. Everything: chatting, reading, listening. Get embarrassing yourself trying to talk until you get it right.
LA Detroit said, nice idea. He said, when I move back there, he said, may have to franchise with you in the Philippines, man. You got a infrastructure, man, to franchise?
The franchise currently is only in Brazil, and they're now starting to actually mount schools in the United States and one other Latin country. So it's actually starting to expand outside.
Okay. That's good. Let me see. He said, test your knowledge. Say,
I'm a coxinha. I'm a coxinha mesmo.
LA Detroit said he sent a small donation with PayPal. Appreciate it, man.
Much love.
Let's see. He said, is she white Brazilian? Who you referring to?
Black Brazilian. She was in the video. Let's see, do I have a picture of? She was on the video that you sent up. Here's a picture of me and my wife there.
Yeah.
That's her. And then And then here's the little girls. So the one in the middle is my biological one. That's
Yeah.
Shanti. So she's the one that speaks, fluently both. This is my girl's daughter, and this is also her daughter. They both are enrolled in the course because they live out this way. So they're taking the course. And since she lives with us, this one is one that lives with us.
Mm-hmm.
She speaks English too. Not as good as my daughter, because my daughter's been speaking it since she was born. But she does speak.
Now you met your wife where you how old was she?
When I met her,
Yeah.
she was probably 22 or 23, somewhere around there. He's like, wow, you pronounced it right.
Yeah, so guys want to know if they could get a young tenderoni, man.
Yeah, it's doable. It's doable. I think it depends on what you want too. You got to decide how you're gonna try to meet somebody. I think I met my girl in the best possible place you can meet a person. And that's on the beach. And the reason why I think that's the best possible place to meet someone because when you're on the beach, there's no signs of what you own or have. There's nothing that says if you have money, you don't have money, if you're poor, or you just don't know, right? And then you don't even know if you're American because, you know, most of us in Brazil fit right in until we say something. You know, if you don't speak the language and if you don't say anything, you saw somebody on the beach, you wouldn't even know if they were Brazilian or not. Depending on, well, I guess their style of swimsuit could give them away if they have something that Brazilians wouldn't wear potentially. But yeah, so it's a good place to meet somebody without worrying about if you want a real relationship because otherwise, people can judge you based on your material stuff, and you have to worry about maybe somebody asking you for your money. Who knows?
All right, Nick said Argentina, Brazil, Costa Rica, Mexico are big for birth tours. Oh, okay, I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, but that wasn't my intent though. So, because when I first got here, I was actually doing an investment visa. So that's another way to do a permanent visa as well, a permanent residency. It's through an investment visa. So a lot of people do it that way as well.
Hmm.
Anyone
Okay,
can be
let me see.
Brazilian because they don't have their own identity. They just need to speak Portuguese. Yeah. So Brazilians it's interesting because Brazil, when I came to Salvador, Bahia, when I went there, I think I got sort of a culture shock that maybe a lot of people that will go to Atlanta would have because I grew up in California, of course. So there's not like Black history in California unless you go to the museum. You got a museum for Black history. So and in Salvador Bahia is where the slaves were brought into Brazil. So the slave trade started in Salvador Bahia, just like it started in the South in the U.S. So you see, and what's interesting about that is, so you see those remnants of African culture. So if you go to Pelourinho, you see the Mardi Gras. I mean, Carnival is like the Mardi Gras, right? It's the same
Right.
thing. And if you look at the French quarters in New Orleans, it's the exact architecture of Pelourinho in Salvador Bahia. So if you were to look up, if anybody's interested to see, you can always look up Pelourinho in Salvador Bahia in Brazil. Salvador, not El Salvador. So Salvador Bahia. You'll see that the structures is exactly the same thing as like in the French quarters in New Orleans. So you see
So
that African influence.
before I forget, because we went over the child support, tell us how the visitation, uh, what to expect in a visitation proceeding, and what is it? Because let me preface by saying this. So, like in the U.S., we got joint legal custody and joint physical custody, where joint legal custody means that uh 50-50 on decision making, and joint physical custody is, basically the presence of the child, if it's 50-50 certain days of the week, holidays, whatever the case. So how does that look in Brazil?
So Brazil, by default, not doing anything in the court process, it's joint custody
By default, okay.
by default. So and that is with decision making, it's joint custody. So now she has to live with someone. So her residence and where she's going to live is what's going to have to be decided. Right? And so in my case right now, she lives with the mother. right? And I live far away, so I live about 2.5 hours from where her mother lives. So every other week, I hire somebody to drive down, pick her up, and bring her here, and then take her back when the weekend is over, so that I can continue to work, but I also get her here. Oh, we got somebody join in.
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah,
how's it going, man?
yeah. So just people, if people got like a question or two, um, you could come up. You could come up real quick. You got a question for Kevin? I
Yeah, man. I
appreciate
don't
it.
want to take too much of your time, but I'm I'm heading out to Salvador later on this month, man, and
Oh, nice,
yeah, I'm
nice.
planning on staying there for half a year. So I've
Ah,
only been to
nice.
Rio, but I'm trying to get the drop on Salvador and make sure everything cool.
There you go. There you go. No, you're gonna love it, man. Go to Morro de Sao Paulo. Make sure you make a note of that place. Morro de Sao Paulo. Morro de Sao Paulo. It's an island in
Okay.
as part of Salvador Bahia, and it's a beautiful place to go. There's a brother there. I don't know if he's still living there. There was a brother living there from the States that was living on the island that I actually just happened to run across and meet him while I was out there. It's an island, so it's not it's not huge, right? You can obviously end up running into people,
I
but
just
yeah,
found it.
yeah, there you go. Moji Sao Paulo. Check that place out, man. It's a nice place to visit when you're down there in Salvador Bahia. Then go to Pelourinho. But how's your Portuguese?
It's decent, like I could do enough far as like ask for direction. Well, not directions, but I could order food,
Okay,
Ubers. I
okay.
could have like a little conversation, not
Let us
use a
let us
lot of
let us
money.
hear you, man. Como está?
Yeah, you want to have a conversation with me?
Now.
Vamos nessa, vamos nessa.
Hey man, look, you about to
Podemos
put me on the spot.
conversar só em português.
I need
Não
some
tem
more drinks
problema.
first. Hey,
Muita
you know how it
caipirinha,
is.
right?
But I'm trying to figure out like which, because like I'm looking at apartments, and I was looking at Alphaville. Is that how you say it? Alphaville?
Alpha
Alphaville?
Alphaville? I'm not
Yeah.
familiar with that. I would say if you want to stay in the tourist area because since you don't speak Portuguese, you don't want to get in the wrong place. So you want to be like in the what's the name of it? The lighthouse, the Farol de Barra. Now, Porta da Barra. You want to look for Porta da Barra. It's close to what they call Farol de Barra. So it's the lighthouse.
Oh, I'm familiar. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so in that area is like the tourist area where you would have a better chance of, having access to probably some people in that might speak some English, and you won't be in a bad area where you have to worry about like favelas or that kind of stuff. So, I would be looking for something around in that area near the beach, and that's the main beach in Salvador. It's near that lighthouse.
Hey, if you don't mind me asking one more question, I don't want to take too much of your time. Um, what was like your best way of getting like a long-term apartment? Did you go through like OLX or like one of
No,
them
what
terminals?
I did, well, I didn't do a long term when I was in Salvador because the guy I was working with, he was cool. I kind of knew him personally, and he was renting the spots. They were his spots, so I didn't have a problem. He was actually an Egyptian guy, but when I came to Rio is where I had a problem. And so what I ended up doing, because most of the contracts in Brazil, the legally it's a 3-year contract, it's supposed to be a 3-year contract, and you have to have like a co-signer and all this other stuff, right? So what I did was I ended up being my own co-signer. So that's something that you can do and you can do that if you're working with the owner of the place. Now, if you're dealing with somebody who's like, a landlord or, the person who's a real estate person, then it's going to be hard to do that. But if you're working direct with the person, then you can kind of work something out.
Okay.
Right. And so that's the best thing to do is try to work direct with the person. You're gonna get a better rate anyways, and then you don't have to deal with some of the red tape if you deal with the person. Because I had a crazy situation when I first came down, and I had this problem that you're talking about, like trying to find a long-term place. And so what I did was I was dealing with the real estate people, right? And so I said, look, I don't have somebody to co-sign for me, and I don't have any job or anything to do this company that they have that you can hire and pay like an extra rent. That'll be your co-signer. So I said, what about this? I said, I'll pay you the 3 years up front. Imagine that. I said, I'll pay you 3 years of rent up front. And they were like, no, we can't do that. I'm like, why not? They were like, because you might get in there and destroy things or something like that. I'm like, well, you're going to have 3 years of rent.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's like, isn't the purpose of having a co-signer so that if you don't pay the rent, you can get it from them. If I paid all of the rent, what's the problem? Why do I need to do it? They didn't want to do it. Like I said, but I can guarantee you if I was talking to the owner of it, he'd be like, come on in, man.
Oh, heck yeah, he would. Yeah, because
like, you want the keys right now, you want to come back and get them later.
Yeah, I'm gonna try that out, man. I'm gonna just, after I stay like at an Airbnb or something for like a couple of weeks, I'm gonna try to talk to the owner of the apartments, man.
Find the owner, because like Airbnbs are good because they're usually the owners when you're dealing with Airbnbs a lot of times. So I mean, depending on because the only time when they it's going to be tricky or what they're going to think about is the holiday season, because when they rent those things, usually just in New Year's and on the holiday season, they can make the money for the year. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and that's why I'm going now, so I can lock it in, and then once the carnival come around, I ain't got to pay that crazy price.
Exactly. So,
yeah, I appreciate you answering that, man. I'm gonna just sit back, man, and let y'all continue. But thanks again.
No problem, man. No problem.
I appreciate it. HB Gun Global, what's good, man?
What's good with you, man? I'm enjoying the conversation. I'm trying to get information. The first time I went to Brazil was in 2006, but I went there for New Year's, and the
In
reason,
Rio?
yeah, I went to Rio and I went to Cabo Frio,
Okay.
and I went somewhere. It was like 9 hours into Brazil. I can't remember the state, because it was so many years. I mean, it was so many years ago. And the reason I went there because my my ex-girlfriend, her family did the foreign exchange student program, and the girl, once she got older, she came back to visit, and she's like, hey, if y'all want to come to Brazil, so me and my ex-girlfriend, we went out there, and family was cool. I think it was Portuguese. They wasn't not Portuguese. They was Lebanese.
Okay.
So, but her dad was the owner or manager of one of the waste companies out there in that particular state that we was in. But yeah, they had a nice house. They lived in a gated community, and that was my first time being outside the country, seeing people with rifles and stuff in front of convenience stores.
Yeah.
So that was like kind of a culture shock for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, Cabo Frio was dope. A lot of people don't know that. You say you're in Salvador, right?
No, I live in Cabo Frio.
Cabo Frio, yeah, Cabo Frio was dope. I got sunburned for the first time out there too. And I'd have been Iraq, you know what I'm saying? So
well, yeah, the sun, it can get hot. If you sit and beaming on you, it can burn.
Okay, at the time they said it was because of the ozone layer. They said the ozone layer was thin. Now this was way back in the day. It was 2007.
I don't know about that part, but I do know that sun, it depends, right? Not every day is that way, of course. But yeah.
Yeah, and
Let me ask,
but I seen some women out there. It was crazy. But anyway, y'all, I just want to come up and show you some love. I donated $99 to your PayPal.
Oh man, I appreciate that. Definitely, much love.
I appreciate that, HB, man.
Make sure if you're coming back again, you find a way to connect up through the site, through my man here, on the Passport Bros, and we can connect up and come back and revisit Cabo Frio again.
Yeah, that should be able to get some out of the book, man. So
yeah, no, definitely gonna help a child. I mean, when I tell people we have a donation for book, you should see in the school, everybody's like, yes, we're gonna be able to get another student in, that can get in. Because I mean, it's a big deal, man, to learn a second English is a big deal.
There's a question in the chat. He said, have you ever suffered racism?
I have suffered racism in Brazil. And so, again, that's why I said racism is everywhere. I'll give you an example of one that really stands out. Mine was probably more than this one, but I'll give you one that really stands out in my mind. And it was really crazy. So I was at the bank, at the ATM. And so I always tell people when you're going to come, for those that are going to come, that you don't have to exchange money at the airport or any of that kind of stuff, because they're gonna get, you're gonna get the worst rate. They're gonna, because that's how they make their money. So I just bring your ATM card and withdraw from the ATM machine. You're gonna get a better exchange rate, and you don't have to walk around with a whole bunch of cash. Right now, so I at the bank, I actually use a bank that, because not every bank will accept your ATM card, but I actually have an account at a bank that does, on purpose, because what I do is I'll withdraw from my ATM. And I'll deposit right back into the same ATM I withdrew from. That way I don't have to leave the bank and walk around with a lot of cash, right? Which you don't want to have to do. So one time I was in this bank and I, withdrew, 2,000 reais is like I think the limit. And so I was, I put the money down and I was, putting all my numbers in and getting ready to make a deposit. And a breeze came and it blew the money. And and it's all $100 bills, right? 100 Brazilian reais bills. And one of them went back under like the ATM machine. And so I called the manager, right? And I was like, look, my money went in the back in the ATM back there. I'm like, somebody needs to get it. Like, how much was it? I was like, it was 100 reais, right? And he's looking at me like, am I, is he lying, telling truth? It's like, what do you mean? Why would you have 100 reais? Like, because I was here trying to make a deposit, and I put the money right here, and it was a wind breeze, and it blew it, and it went in there. And I was like, I know because I counted, and I'm missing 100. And they were like, all right, so they sent the guy back there, right? And the guy comes back. Like I said, I already felt like they were like, yeah, I think he's trying to, he's lying for some reason. So they came back, and check this out. He came back with a fake $100 bill. So he literally found a fake $100 bill that had gotten probably blown under there from somewhere else. It was small. I mean, it was obviously fake. It wasn't like, is this real? It was like, legitimately fake. And he came back with that and said, was this it? And I'm looking and I'm like, oh man, come on now. I'm like, we finna do this, right? And I'm like, nah, man, it was a real $100 bill, not a fake $100 bill. So I'm talking to one guy, but there's another guy who was back there in the back, like, looking. And so I'm talking to this guy, he's already not believed me. And so all of a sudden the guy comes out, he's like, oh, I found it. And I'm like, I'm looking at the guy like, man, just get the fuck out of my face. I hope you feel stupid now. Right. But yeah, he like, I was over trying to get over on them with I made a fake $100 bill go behind the machine claiming it was real or something. Yeah, it was crazy. So yeah, it's here, you'll see it, it's you'll see it in the movie industry, right? There's not that many black actors, like a handful. It's even worse than like in the States. And you'll notice like the poor people have most of the black people have the security role type jobs and stuff. So you can see it. It's against the law here as well too, but it's not, to me, it's not so much hidden. Like, I don't think like we try to do diversity and we try to do things to make it seem like it doesn't exist anymore, right? When we know it does.
So let me. I don't know. I don't know how much time you got, or take up too much more of your time. But I wanted to kind of throw out. Okay, somebody sent you
Which bank can you use in the Brazil that's affiliated with some bank in the U.S.? So you have banks that I don't know about affiliated. I mean, you got Santander. Santander is an international bank. So I think there's Santander in the United States. So that's one bank. It used to be HSBC until they got caught up in that scandal. Now, there's no HSBCs. I don't know if there are anywhere anymore. But there's Bank of Brazil in Brazil. It's called Banco do Brasil. It accepts our ATM cards here, and there is a version of it in the United States. I think it might only be in Florida, but there is a version of it, not by name of Bank of Brazil, but it's a version. Then we've got another bank that you can withdraw here is Bradesco. So that's another bank that you can withdraw from ATMs here. And then they also have third-party ATM machines that charge more because that's what they're there for, like in the pharmacy or something.
I think the question more like because I used to bank in Colombia with BBVA, but they are, even though there's a BBVA Colombia and like a BBVA in the US, they are separate entities.
Exactly. So Citibank is like that too. So Citibank here in Brazil, it's like a franchise, right? There's a Citibank, because I remember when I had Citibank. I don't know if there's still Citibanks in Brazil, but if there are, they accept our card too. But when I had Citibank in the States and I came here and I would make withdrawals, I would see I was getting charged an ATM fee, and I'm like, wait a second, I'm Citibank. It's the Citibank card. I'm withdrawing from Citibank ATM. Why am I getting charged? And they're like, oh, because the Citibank in Brazil is different. Like it's a franchise. It's like, yeah, they're Citibank, but they're Brazil Citibank. So yeah, so you'll sometimes run that. But those are the banks I usually withdraw from Bradesco because that's the one where I have an account at, and they have a higher withdrawal limit. So that's the other thing that's kicking them out. The Santander has a withdrawal limit of 1,500 reais. so that's like $300. And then you have Banco Brazil, which has a limit of like 500 reais, so that's like $100. And so Bradesco has the highest withdrawal, which is 5,500, or not 5,500, 550 US per day that you can withdraw out of Bradesco. Okay. If you have that available on your card, I have cards that have 600 US ATM limit. I have some that have 400 ATM limit.
Okay. No.
I do have a question. So, I don't know how it is, how many brothers you have, coming in to meet up with you or even meet you. Do your lady allow you to go outside?
Oh yeah. She was, sometimes she go with me. I just got so I'm in a fraternity. I don't know if we got any frat brothers here online, but I happen to be of the beautiful Alpha Phi Alpha Fraternity Incorporated. No, but I got bros out here now, right? They're actually leaving to go to Sao Paulo because of the game. So just this past weekend, I spent the weekend with 4 of my bros from the States, from LA, and we got to hang out. So yeah, I get people that come all the time. I had one of my Neos had his bachelor party out here. I had I always give people that come down, not always just people in my fraternity, but just friends in general. A lot of people know that I'm down here, so they'll be like, if you're going to Brazil, you got to connect up with Kev, so you can get the lay of the land. I see we got a whole see we got. We'll have to give out a 11119. That's right. So yeah, it's cool. I like when people get to come down. I get to make sure I help them. I got friends that are tour guides. So if somebody's coming down and they want to do it, looking for somebody to give them a tour guide, because I'm not in Rio, and so a lot of people obviously go to Rio and then to Copacabana, but Brazil is one of these places where you can't just be wandering around, exploring places, and that can get you caught up. So you gotta stay and know where you can and can't be and whatnot. Lived in the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw for 33 years. Nice. I lived there. I'm born and raised in Compton, right? So I grew up partly in Carson. I went to Carson High though, and I lived in LA. I went to school at USC, so I'm a Trojan. So I graduated. I did my undergrad at SC, and I'm a lifetime member of A5.
So it's guys that may be looking for guys that struggle meeting a good girl in Brazil. Like, I don't know if you got like friends of a friends of a friends.
There's plenty of friends. Oh, that's right. To go back to the original thing is my girl. I forgot how we got down that conversation. So when I hung out with my brothers. I brought along with me. I brought her and I brought one of my daughters, and we all hung out. I took them to the boat tour, and because one thing I love about when I'm going to do stuff that's kind of tourist, especially with like my friends when they're coming down, we're doing more tourist type stuff. And but we do some. I like to show them tours, like traditional tours, so they can relate to conversations with other people who have been to Brazil. So like, yeah, I know about that. But then I also like to give them something that's off the beaten path, where it's like, no, this is Brazilians. Like, you probably, if you didn't have somebody with you that spoke Portuguese, you wouldn't be here or wouldn't be able to do this stuff. And so I oftentimes like to have my girl, because even though I speak Portuguese fluently, there's certain things that I will still say that will give me away. Right, like it might take a 30-minute conversation for them to realize that I'm not Brazilian, and not just that I'm Brazilian from some other part of Brazil, or even if I'm not American, but maybe from Angola, from Africa, where they speak Portuguese. Mm-hmm. And so, but when it comes to negotiations, I throw her out there on them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, okay, we need to get a taxi. Go get it, girl. Because I know if they pick up on any cent of American, and the rates are going to be a whole other thing, man. I'll never forget a story where I was wanting to practice my Portuguese, and I was with a Brazilian girl, and I said, look, don't say anything, let me handle it all. I'm gonna talk to the taxi guy, I'm gonna tell him where we're going, like I need to get good, need to practice. So here we are in the taxi cab, and I'm telling him, I'm all excited. I'm like, yeah, I think he got it. And, we on our way. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she started cussing the taxi guy driver out. And she was like, stop the car. We're getting out right here. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? Nobody said nothing, right? I'm like, how is it just happened? And nobody said nothing. So we get out. She's like, Kevin, dude was trying to take us the long route. He's like, he wasn't going to suck because he just assumed that she was probably an American too, because she didn't say nothing, right? I'm doing the talking. And he thought, oh, I'm going to take the scenic route and ring up the bill on the taxi, right? And didn't know he had a Brazilian in the car. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have known, right? How do you know if you don't know where you're going, if it's the long route or not? So, yeah. But
So,
no,
You said
my girl, no problem. And she had no problem even if I wanted to go without her. She didn't have a problem with that.
you said earlier you said she's younger. Like, what's the age gap?
Our age gap is like 19 years.
Ooh, man.
So she is 35 and I am 50, going to be 54 next week. No, this week, September 7th.
Yeah.
Oh man, happy birthday, man.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't know. I have an issue dating younger women. Not saying that, like, I don't have an issue with them. Just saying I just have a issue dating women like in their 20s, because it's just a maturity level in their conversation sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not banging you. I'm not coming at you, but I'm saying, like, I still do it. But I'm just saying, like, how do you make it work? You just got lucky. You know what I'm saying? Because
Well, I mean, I wasn't. I don't consider myself as having been mature at the time when I got here in Brazil. So, women tend to be. To me, women tend to be more mature than us for the same age, right? And so when I came to Brazil, I was 39, right? So, and she was like 22. So, I mean, I don't consider myself as mature to the point of where we couldn't have a conversation together or something, right? So I guess it just depends on each person, right? Everybody's different in terms of your maturity level and your interests and all that kind of stuff, right? There's so many variables that come to play to find out if you're compatible. I mean, all you can do is have a conversation and find out. Is it going to be a relationship, or is it going to be just a hit it and quit it, right? It's like you gotta.
yeah, because I mean, I was in Brazil 2020, right before what I'm saying, the whole pandemic, and I was meeting chicks, man. They was beautiful. I mean, they was easy to talk to, or even just to get. But the whole thing is, like, when we started having these deep conversations, it's just the whole feminist mentality that was starting to come out. And do you see a change of things over the years in Brazil as far as, like, with the feminists? Because, like, I don't remember it being so bad, but now it's just insane. And it's like,
I don't. It's interesting because I didn't know anything about this feminist thing. So you guys are like enlightening me on something right now. So, like, yeah, to me, I don't know anything about this feminist thing. So this is new news to me. So that's why when you say, like, you feel this and this and that, like, I didn't know this. I didn't know this was going on. Like, there's a lot of things, like I said, since I'm not in the States anymore and I don't follow the news, there's a lot of stuff I just don't know about. You know what I mean? Like, it was funny, like when the whole movement with Lamar Kendrick, right? I didn't even know. My buddy had to put me up on it. I was like, man, you don't know about this battle, this beef with him and Drake? And I'm like, nah, man. Like, I'm going to send you some links to the music. And I'm like, I was outside the loop. When I saw it, I was like, oh, man, this is some good stuff. Some good shit right here, Being from LA, being from Compton, I'm like, man, I recognize all that. Tam's Burger, that's the old spot. I was feeling good when I did the video at Compton City Hall. I'm like, man, reminisce and thinking of blast from the past. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff I don't know about. So if there's a feminist movement in the United States, I don't know anything about it here in Brazil. I don't think it's here. Maybe it's coming, but I don't see it. I don't know.
I guess you gonna see more if you're single, you're gonna see more things than if you're not single.
yeah, that's probably why you missed it. That's why I wanted to say. That's why I was asking, like, even because, I mean, that was some years ago. Since you met your lady. I know Brazil was way different like 10 years ago, but this was like 2020, and I was dealing with feminism when I was like, I'm saying I wasn't dealing with it as me being attacked, but it was just a conversation. So I was having, I already did my thing, but I was okay. I'm saying I just want to dive deeper into having a conversation with her, like just trying to figure out what her mind is, and if it's something that I want to pursue long term.
Well, I'll tell you.
I'll tell you the first thing ideology.
If you're looking for something serious in Brazil, you need to learn how to speak Portuguese. All right. If you learn how to speak Portuguese, you're gonna live in a completely different world than if you don't. right? And so
Right,
when
right.
when I lived in because you're going to live in the tourist area, you're going to spend more money. The cost of living is going to be more. It's going to be expensive by Brazil standards. And probably if you're making your income from dollars, you're not going to feel it as being expensive, but it's going to be expensive for Brazil. And then you're not going to be able to have real. It's going to be hard to have a real relationship if you can't communicate, right? That's the
Though, even if they speak
cornerstone
English.
of a relationship is communication.
I mean, even if they speak English, because the chicks I'm referring to, they spoke English. So
Yeah, but here's the thing. I speak Portuguese, but it's one thing to be able to communicate. It's another thing to be able to express. Right. So here's where you find the flaws and knowing another language is that you may not be able and she may not be able to express herself completely. Right. That's different. And that's something that's important in a relationship is not just being able to say, the basic, but to be able to express yourself is different, right? So, like I said, it's one thing like for you to say, I'm hungry. It's another thing to be like, I'm starving. It's nothing to be like that was funny, and another thing to be like, man, that shit was crazy, right? Like I'm saying the same thing, but they're kind of different, right?
Yeah.
It's not exactly the same. If I was like, man, that you should have saw it. That shit was crazy, right? That's different than if I said, man, there was some weird things going on.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Context is lost sometimes.
You see what I mean? And I saw that happen when people come to Brazil, and I didn't understand it when I came and didn't speak Portuguese because the languages aren't exact. And so like when we were being here in Brazil, we had a translator. And my buddy would ask him, like, how much was this, right? And she would say this, and he'd be like, and he would be asking her, like, but how did he say it? Like, did he say it like this, or did he say it like that? And I'm thinking to myself, now I'm like, dude, you can't translate that. Like what he was looking for is not something you could translate because it's a different way of thinking. It's almost like, and this is why diversity matters in the world, in the workforce, and in creativity, because in Brazil, it's like the glass is half empty or the glass is half full. It's like we're saying the same thing, but we're saying it in a different way. And when you learn another language, that's what kind of happens. It's not like you translate for word. You have to come up with the equivalence. So you may have to reword something to be able to translate it. You can't just go, these are the words in English, these are the words in Portuguese. It doesn't work like that.
yeah,
Right?
I get what you're saying. I think you kind of going on like a different path. What I was mentioning when it comes to the ideology and the feminism, because I mean it wasn't too much of a barrier because she was in her conviction with the feminist. The feminism. That's what I was referring to. It wasn't.
Okay,
It didn't have.
but I
It
was
had
talking
anything to do about
but I
the
was talking about being
conversation or understanding each other. It was just the whole ideology of feminism that's seeping into the young women in Brazil that I noticed. That's what I was referring to.
okay. But that's important to the communication part. So keep that in mind.
Let me see who just Mr. G came up. Let me answer this question real quick. Is the family court system, because you've been
The same or different? The same as the United? Are you saying the family? Are they different courts, or you mean the same or different than in the United States?
is it because some people the question in comparison to Brazil and the U.S. because some people will say that going through the family courts is less headache, less weaponized in Brazil than in the U.S. Or is the dynamic still the same?
For me, the dynamic. Well, when I went to court for my child, I don't know if things could have changed, but when I went to court for my child, it was more like a mediator. Like when I went to do the child support with my kids in the States, I never saw a judge. I never went in front of a judge. It was sort of like the person who is going to try to come to an agreement so that you don't actually have to go into the judge, right? It was sort of like, so we met with that person, and that's as far as I ever got for my kids in the States. Here in Brazil, I actually went to a judge, but they also have that too. So before you go to see a judge, they try to, they send you to a mediator first. So they're going to have somebody who's going to try to see if you guys can't come to an agreement, who's going to try to, avoid the necessity of getting in front of a judge and try to resolve it without a judge. And so to me, in that respect, it was the same, what I mean? It's just, different amounts, different time here. But yeah, to me, I don't really see any big difference. And it's considered family court here in Brazil.
Okay, so that I'm glad you said that. You won't feel a difference whether you're going through family courts in the U.S. or Brazil,
Yeah.
but that's not your reason. That never has been a determinant factor on whether you want to be in Brazil or not. It was other reasons that made you want to be in Brazil, not the other things that exist in the U.S. Because some guys, I guess, because a lot of passport bros, they want to be in countries that don't have a lot of the elements they see in the U.S. They want some want a completely different landscape, whether it's laws, culture.
Oh, it's a different landscape. The different landscape. I mean, because in Brazil, you've got, you've got the laws, but there's no governing 100% of the laws, right? So I expect that the same laws we have in the States are here in Brazil, but
Right.
they just don't have the manpower to stay on top of them if everybody's following them, right? So easily you'll see people running the red lights and stuff like that. It's like just normal, right? You know what I mean? And like I said, like in Brazil, technically Brazil is supposed to be reporting the information about my bank account to the United States, right?
Mhm.
But they don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's
Say
probably
that
some
again. Say that again.
find some law in there that's because in the United States, right? You even if I didn't live, which I don't, right? But even if I was not making any income in the United States and I was only making money here, I'd still be required to pay U.S. taxes, right? That's how the U.S. works, right? And that's why you got some people that will denounce their citizenship to avoid that, right? To not have to pay U.S. taxes. So the U.S. doesn't care where you live in the world; they want taxes if you're making income.
I'll ask that question, Ozzy. In a minute. I got Mr. G came up, man. What's up, Mr. G?
Hey, good evening, bro. Good evening to the brother in Brazil, man.
Good
Appreciate y'all
evening.
having this show.
Good evening.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I don't know. Is it morning in Brazil right now?
No, it's at nighttime. It's 10:30.
Okay. Okay. Oh yeah. That's that one thing I heard about Brazil too. The time zone is not too different, and that's pretty good. I used to live in Cali for a little minute, and everything else as far as business wise and a lot of things going around in the world is in Eastern time. In Cali, sometimes you're like 3 hours back, and you
Yeah.
feel like a whole different continent. So it's really nice, being like 1 hour back. That's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah. No, exactly. So you're on the East Coast then.
Yeah, I'm on the East Coast. I'm on the East
Uh,
Coast. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, I appreciate you, man, coming on here. Like, talking about this. I wish more brothers will talk about this because I am in somewhat similar situation, but I don't pay child support,
Okay.
and I do think one of the best moves for brothers who are really serious about doing serious stuff, not just going for the fun kind of thing, or who are serious about building families. That's one of the best. One of the strategies you can use. I'm not saying the best, but one of the strategies you can use having a child with somebody and, being able to work with somebody if you think she's a good person over there.
Right.
Um, and I've heard all kind of things. I remember me having gotten my little situation. I remember somebody was telling me some situation. It kind of scared me a bit, right? Because they were talking
Uh-huh.
about, oh man, they can do this, they can do that. Man, I know somebody, and they paying all this money, da 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 da. And the brother was trying to scare me, But regardless, though, I wanted to take up my responsibility. So, um, at the end of the day, I didn't do any of that, to go to the court or whatnot, because I end up spending more money on my child than the child support. If I was paying child support in the DR, it probably would have been less. you know. So I just take care of my responsibility. She's a good person, you know. We work that out, and I think that's one of the good strategies. Is brothers are really serious about, you know, doing something with somebody, having a kid with them over there. I think you still have leverage. I think the brother was just talking about, you know, not having a system that looks like anything like the system from the US, but it's cheaper over there. I think you still have the upper hand. I think it's still a win. That's the best win a person can do. You don't have to deal with the system over here.
Yeah, yeah. Nah, that's true. That's true.
Now, two things real quick. Anton said earlier that that's Frack. He said he's a permanent resident of Brazil, married to a Brasilia from Belo
From,
Horizonte. And
from Belo Horizonte, BH.
he said might have to hook up one day. So
No,
I put his IG in the chat. If you need me to put his IG in the chat, or if you could get in contact with me through email or whatever, I'll make that connection.
no, for sure.
Anton said, and then we didn't talk about the Twitter ban.
X. Yeah,
You
no,
know,
that's a hot topic. Yeah, I didn't even know about that one, right? Because I don't use X or Twitter. I never did. I created accounts thinking that maybe one day I would, but I never actually ended up using it. But yeah, that's definitely some controversial stuff. But I don't know. I think it was I don't think it was a smart move for Elon Musk personally, but you know, it's not a smart business move. But he doesn't really need the money, so he probably isn't thinking about it from a business move standpoint, or more probably ego standpoint. But because Brazil's 22, I think it was more than 22 million users from Brazil, and so what's going to happen now is, depending on how long this stays going on, Brazilians are already starting to find another place, right? They're not going to wait. So now you already got other, you know, you got Instagram threads. So if you look up, they're moving, you know, to other platforms. And if they get over there and get comfortable, they're not going to go back when it comes back. So he's just going to lose that, you know, that volume of users. And Brazilians are very social, so that's a lot of activity on it. But
so
we'll see. I'm glad I never was hooked on any of that stuff, so I could care less whether it's banned or not.
So we got the Peso Man. He has a question for you. Go ahead.
Yo, what's up? How you doing, Mr. Campbell? Let me ask you a couple of quick questions. I was in and out, so I didn't catch all the interview, but I caught a couple of little things. And you have a child in Brazil. That's correct, right? How old is your kid?
She'll be 14 in November. She's 13 now. Actually, she'll be 14 in November. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, you had a 14 years ago then, 15 years ago. Now you said so you met a young lady in Brazil 14, 15 years ago. So while you were on your tourist visa, how long were you on your tourist visa?
I was on my tourist visa for a while, because I was going through a process, because I was doing an investment visa.
Okay. So you wasn't over there for like 3-4 months, then bam, she got pregnant. So you was over there for a minute, and then you was in a relationship.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I was there because Brazil, even if you're on a tourist visa and it expires, Brazil, they're not going to come looking for you. So you can be here illegally. No one's coming looking for you.
Okay. So you've been over there 15 years. So how? Well, actually, two things I would ask you. What made you decide to go to Brazil? But not only that, you've been over there for 15 years. You've been over there a decade and a half. So what do you do to earn income? You know, how do you support yourself over there?
Sure. So the first thing, I came because I wanted to travel far from where I live, which is LA. And I have been to Mexico and been to Canada, but those are all like on the same continent. I wanted to get further away. I wanted to get somewhere where I would know I wasn't in Northern California. And so buddies of mine came to Brazil, and they said, yeah, well, you can come with us. So I joined the bandwagon. I went to Salvador Bahia first for 3 days, and then to Rio. And it was, like I said, that culture shock that I got when I got to Salvador Bahia, and seeing that Black history and that culture, because I always tell people, that experience kind of shocked me from my experience in the U.S., because in the United States, I don't feel that as a Black American, we have a culture in the United States. We're there, but we don't have a culture that we wrap around, right? And so when you walk through LA, I'll see Mexicans, and if I go in the Mexican person's house, I will see Mexican things, flags and whatnot that they relate to, not because it just looks good. If I go to most Black people's house and they have stuff from Africa, they've probably never been to Africa. They just like the way it looks. They don't like identify with that culture that's associated with the stuff they have. But every other culture besides us does. If you go to a Chinese person's house, see Chinese stuff, they relate to that stuff. So I felt like we kind of like a little bit disconnected from a culture standpoint. But when I went to Salvador Bahia, I felt connected. I felt like these are my people, right? And that's why I was like saying, maybe if I went to Atlanta and lived there, grew up there, I might feel that way. But growing up in LA, don't feel that way. So I kind of just fell in love with that connection that I felt like here is a culture that Black people identify with and recognize. So it was sort of like, wow, you know, this is Brazil is a Black culture, right? And so that was the first thing. And then now to go to the reason why or how I stay and how I survive is so I do web development. So I'm a web developer. So I build websites. And so that gives me the luxury to live anywhere in the world, right? I got a laptop, you know, high-end laptop that I just take that and I can go wherever I want in the world. And so all my money is made online, right? So I work with PayPal. I have PayPal debit cards. So I work on Upwork, the platform Upwork. So all my money gets paid in Upwork, gets transferred to PayPal, where I have 9 PayPal debit cards so that I can withdraw more or less as I need to survive. And so that's how I'm able to be here. And because of the exchange rate and the cost of living, and where I live, I built my house. So I took the time to build my house from the ground up. So it's sort of paid for. That's usually the biggest expense in most people's lives are car and house. If you can get rid of a car and a house, most people could do well with a regular job, right? And so I don't have a car note. I don't have a house note. So, I can live comfortably. It was kind of like the first time I also got to feel how to live without living paycheck to paycheck. And then the focus changed here. I didn't have to worry about money because in LA, and I don't know how many, I never lived any other way in the United States. Well, it's a short term, but material things are important for a Black man who's trying to get into a relationship with a woman to have. And if you don't have them, your opportunities for that relationship are changed, right? And so everything's really materialistic. And so when I came in Brazil, it's not that way. Like they recognize material things, but it's not like you need them to be on a level playing field with everybody else. They're nice to have, but you don't need them to meet a beautiful woman, right? It's not a requirement because there's so many women outnumbered than men here in Brazil that it's not even possible. And so there were things like that, like the ease of talking with women, right? Like Brazilian women are more. If you go out to a club in the United States, for instance, and I guess I can speak only California. You guys, if you live other places, can tell me if it still falls the same. But you go to a club in LA and you out there, you want to have a good time, you want to dance. You ask a girl to dance, she's not going to dance with you if she doesn't look at you as somebody she would date. If she looks at you and says, this guy is ugly, no way in hell I'm going to dance with him, she's not really there just to have fun. She's picking and choosing, right? You come to a club in Brazil, they're not that way. Like they'll dance with you, and you could get mixed signals, right? Like you think, oh, she must like me because she danced with me. Like no, it doesn't work like that. She danced with me because she came out to have a good time, right? Whether she likes you or not, you have to figure that out. It ain't because she's accepted the dance that she likes you, right? So it's like different dynamics and things like intimacy, right? I always feel like in the United States, women are more like trying to have an image of themselves that's pristine, like as if though we are the ones who like sex and they don't, and we have to talk them into it, right? And so it's not really that way here in Brazil. Like women are like men in the sense of if they like you and want to have sex with you, then what are we waiting on? You know what I'm saying? But women are more like, no, you have to earn it. It's like you need to work for it. It's like they like it just like we do, but you would never believe that. I mean, for the longest time, that wasn't even a reality to me that women like sex like men like sex because it doesn't show. It's not something you see.
Let me ask you one
Can I
more
speak on
question.
the child support
Well,
thing? Can I talk?
Yeah,
Can I say something about the
hold
child
on.
support?
hold on,
Yeah,
hold on, So you asked two questions, man. Let me get the new person in, and then I'll circle
All right.
around. Go ahead, Em.
Well, one. So I know y'all guys talking about the child support thing.
Yeah.
One thing about Brazil, Brazilian women don't know the legal system about child support and things like that, and so most of them would not enact child support on you in case you had a bad situation with your baby's mother.
Yeah.
So I don't think you would have to worry about being put on child support because the women wouldn't even know the legal system about that either.
Yeah. I agree. Most women don't know about the legal system.
I mean, it's a lot of women in the U.S. don't really know the ins and outs. To be honest with you, I mean, the ones that's educated, the ones that educated do. The ones that educated do,
but they have assistants to deal with child support. Every woman know if they get mad at the man, they can put them on child support. That's really a general thing. That's one of the main reasons why women put men on child support because maybe you cheat on her or she's mad at you or for whatever women to get back at you. But in Brazil, they don't have that kind of convicted kind of wicked behavior where I'm gonna do this to you to get back at you type of deal.
But see, also a lot of times with that, I'm telling you, in the U.S., my ex is not from here. She learned all that stuff from the legal assistant at the courthouse. So it doesn't really, it's not them. It's the people who work at the courthouses are telling them, well, you can do this, you can do this right here. That's how
Okay.
we begin jammed up. Because that's how I found out. Because I thought it was like somebody else telling her, it's the legal aides at the courthouse.
Hmm.
well, let me see. The question was, I think Pesa wanted to ask, when did you know that you were not going back to America? What
When did I
sealed the deal?
when did I know? I didn't plan on going back when I came. So I kind of that was the preparation. Like I said, was a book called The 4 Hour Work Week by Timothy Ferris, and before I even made the leap, I had already sat down. And this is something I always recommend anybody who's thinking about doing something that's going to be life changing, is to make it less fearful. Most people are afraid. Like people are like, everybody, when I told them I was going to do this, they started throwing out all the things that could go wrong, right? Like, what happens if this and what is that? Like, it was like, so if you're going to do something that's risky, then answer all those questions before you do it, right? So if you feel like, well, this could go wrong, this could go wrong, this could go wrong, you put down everything you think could go wrong, and you put down everything that you expect and want to happen, because there's a reason you're doing whatever you're doing. So there's for some positive reason. So write those things down and then ask yourself to answer all of them. So if you say, well, what if this happens? Then, okay, what if it does happen? What would you do? You're not going to die, right? We can all agree that just because something didn't go the way you planned, it doesn't mean you're going to kill over. So a decision is going to happen whether you prepare it and then think about it in advance, or you just wait and see if it happens and do it on the fly. You're going to do something. So the question is, just answer the question now. And now guess what happens? If you have an answer for all of those things, who cares if they happen? You already know what you're going to do if it happens, so just do that.
Right.
So, don't be afraid anymore. That's how I live life. It's like, just lay it all out there, because more than likely, all of those bad things are usually unlikely things, and the things that are good are usually likely things that are going to happen. So why are you going to be afraid of a whole bunch of things that are probably not going to happen? But if they did, you've already figured out what you would do. And not take the risk for all of those good things that are likely to happen that you want.
Oh,
So
that's real.
can I say something? Because I'm about to go.
Yeah.
So, I don't have a problem because I'm gonna give you a little pushback, Kevin. So, I don't have a problem with brothers going to other countries because I travel. I like going places for new experiences, but I just don't like the narrative that black people don't have culture. Because cultures, it's beliefs, behaviors, practices, what we do. What I'm saying, art, language, because our culture is always evolving as black people. Because we don't have dashikis and prehistoric practices. Typically as time goes on, some you know people, they do away with those type of things. And so like, because I went to South Africa, and there was no people there with none of the stuff that you would think they was black Americans, because I've been in some of these people houses. They got, I didn't see any drums and um uh what is it, face mask and all that shit stuff posted up or hanging up on their wall. So I'm like, I just don't like that narrative as, what I'm saying, black Americans, we don't have no culture when we have plenty of culture, because our culture influences the world. What I'm saying? Whether it comes with the things that we believe, what we practice, food, clothes, what I'm saying? It might not look traditional, like per se. I'm gonna put quotes, hand quotes, air quotes, traditional, colors with some green and orange and all that type of stuff like that. So we ain't still, dancing around like we Native Americans and stuff like that. Um, we do have culture, but we always evolving and forever changing. What I'm saying, as Black Americans. So
I guess when I referred to that, just to circle back on it, is with regard to the United States of America, right? Like I don't see how that flag, the United States of America, how it relates to the food that I associate with that we consider black, or like I said, I just don't see myself circling around it anymore, and feel like knowing the history of the United States with us as the black people, it's just not good, you know. And so I don't know. It's like I said, it's something I can't put a finger on it 100%, but I can say that how I felt when I was around people that have a culture that is circled around food, traditional food, that circles around a flag, that it was kind of a complete picture, so to speak. And I look back and I'm like, yeah, what would I have in my house if somebody said, Kevin, fill your house with things that are of your culture? I just don't feel like I would know. Like I said, and maybe if I grew up in Atlanta, I might have a better sense of that. But that feeling of a black culture, I feel like more like I have more of a camaraderie. And this is how gangs evolved, right? Because you've got young black kids that don't really have. They look to these guys as, oh, this is my country. These the gangsters. These are my, these are the ones that take care. These are the ones that teach me, train me, and like, this is my tribe. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like I said. I guess it's a matter of perspective and how you grow. I don't know, where did you grow up at?
I grew up in Georgia.
There you go.
But I'm saying though, like, I mean, even some of these cultures today, all these cultures, I mean, these people, they all knew ethnic groups. A lot of these people went through ethnogenesis. Even some of these flags today, they was, created, what I'm saying, whatever. And some of that had to do with white people creating these flags. Because a lot of these flags, I mean, I don't think a flag is, me having a flag, what I'm saying, it means
I
I'm
know, but just
have a
keep in
culture,
mind.
or
Just
I
keep in
feel.
mind. You grew up in black country.
Yeah, I can kind of get it because I live in California now, and I can tell, even with dealing with black people out here, I feel like there's a sense of disconnect. I
It's
don't feel
not
a
the same.
camaraderie.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah,
the
even
same.
yeah. The only time I kind of like feel something similar, you might have some people that might be second generation because their parents probably migrated from the South, and they probably picked up some little nuances of, just being from the South or whatnot. But you can notice the change, just even how
Yeah,
they interact with, what I'm saying, other
yeah,
people, and you know that looks like us, and there's no how would I say, it's a lot of off coldness, you know what I'm saying? So I'm like, damn, it's kind of weird out here. You know, I was talking to this one girl, she don't know anything about Black history. And she's like, oh, they didn't teach us that in Las Vegas. I was like, what? And it's weird to me because I grew up in the South and they teach us, you know what I'm saying, Black history
It's
nonstop,
all over the world.
damn
It's all
near
over
year
the world.
round, because all our teachers are Black, you know, mostly all our teachers are Black. You know, especially of course, you get that 1 year out the month, but you know, that 1 month out of, Black History Month, but it was crazy to me just to talk to people like Black people out here on the West Coast. I'm like, what? They didn't teach y'all this? You're like, you don't know this? It's weird.
Hey, let me see. So we at the 2 hour 45 mark, man. I'm not trying to go over 3 hours, man. We got LA Detroit in the building. I want to give him the floor, and then I'm gonna let everybody give closing remarks. Um, what up, LA Detroit?
Hey guys, how's it going? Hey, I'm here in Las Vegas. I just wanted to give my little passport bro advice. I don't know if you're gonna call me an old school passport bro, but I met my wife. Went out to the Philippines in 2010, and my advice is don't bring them back to America.
Oh, Eddie Murphy already told me that.
Yeah, but even though it worked out well for me, I mean, it worked out perfectly. But when I look back after I got more red pilled after that, I was like, you know what? I really was blessed because it could have worked out totally different. Yeah.
Definitely
Since,
with yeah.
the expenses of it. One, it probably cost me through some mistakes, probably almost 20 grand to get my wife out here. Um, but it usually costs about between 5 and 10. So the expense wise, and then the biggest reason is that, the states can change them. My wife has changed. Unfortunately, though, she was so sweet that she's still better than any American girl I could have got. And we're 22 years apart. I was 44. She was 22. So, but yeah, so I wouldn't recommend it though. The odds are just not in your favor. So think twice about bringing them here.
Yeah, hey, same thing happened to me. I didn't find out about this until I was going through it. Then I started seeing other information out there, like, bro, you shouldn't have brought them back to the States. So now I'm stuck with $1,100 bill, and
Nah.
and I can't even get rid of this chick if I wanted to. Like,
It reminds me of Eddie Murphy's Raw. I don't know if anybody in here remembers that, but
Oh yeah, Pumfu. Oh yeah, can't forget her.
He was like, don't take your African bitch back to the States because they'll throw a monkey wrench in your shit.
hey, but I'm out of here, man. Appreciate y'all guys, man. It was nice chatting with y'all,
No
man.
problem,
Hey,
man.
HB Global, before you get off, man, I wanted to say this because you mentioned something about South Africa, and I think if I'm not mistaken, that's your first trip, but not because it's just your first trip. That's what I wanted to point out to you, man. South Africa is a bit unique in itself when it comes to Africa, because recently me and a couple of homos were just talking about it. How hard it was for us to even get South African food in South Africa. It'll be much easier to get dish from a different neighboring countries, Zimbabwe, even Nigerian food or whatnot. Because I was asking them, I'm like, I want to eat some South African food. um they were referring to, oh yeah, there's a restaurant, a Nigerian restaurant at the CDB. I'm like, what? I'm in South Africa, I want to eat South African food. So South Africa is a bit different. I had the same problem there too. I was like, I feel like it's not very African-y. I was telling this one colored girl, you were out there, you know what colored means. I was talking to this one colored girl. I was like, man, I feel like South Africa is not really African-y. She was like, what do you mean? But when I went to Tanzania, it was a whole different vibe. So wait until you travel to more nations. I understand what you were saying overall, but that's just something unique to South Africa in itself. And you probably experience it when you go back out there, or maybe you did experience it while you were there.
No, I was just talking about the culture aspect. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was mentioning about. You know what I'm saying, that as Black Americans, we want to have a culture because people like to say that. You know what I'm saying? So I was just talking about that. Because we don't have a certain thing or whatever or whatnot. I mean, it's not tied to us as us not having culture. That's what I was talking about. Um, but yeah, I get what you were saying. I had some of those issues right now. It was hard for me to find African food out there. I went to a farmer's market and I was able to get something. But as far as like, you know, you going out day to day, you like, okay, I can just drive out and throw a rock and get some African food. There was none existent out there in South Africa. So, but
let
yeah,
me let me get everybody closing out, man.
All right, thanks, guys. And I made a double mistake. Once my wife became a citizen, she got her mother out here, so my mother-in-law is with us too. That's her waving in the background. So no, it worked out for me. I've been blessed, but don't do it, guys.
Hey
Don't do it.
man, hey man, you're a lucky one, man. Hey, we want to hear stories like you, man. I mean, I know you say don't do it, but you know it could be like that brother right here, Kevin. You, I think these stories are more stories we need to advertise out there because you know a lot of brothers are not really advocating for like building something substantial and something for the long run. And some of us getting old out here, we got to think about our old age.
Well, I'll tell you what I always think about for me. It's always about, it goes back to a movie, the name of a movie, The Pursuit of Happiness. At the end of the day, you got to do what makes you happy. As long as you ain't hurting nobody, you ain't doing nothing wrong. Do what makes you happy, right? It doesn't really matter if other people don't like it, don't agree with it or nothing. At the end of the day, if you're happy, you won or you're winning.
Oh, last thing, Kevin. I'm pretty sure we know some of the same people because I worked on the campus of SC for 15 years,
Is
and
that right?
yeah,
Oh,
and a bunch of friends graduated around the same time you did. So I know we know some of this. It was
oh,
remember it was real strong black community at SC in the 90s and stuff and the
for sure,
80s. So
for sure.
yeah. All right, thanks guys. Take it easy out there. Be careful. Be careful where you put your seed at too. All right.
All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But yeah, let me close out. I'm gonna let Rocket Club go, man. I know he been chilling for a minute, man. And then Mr. G, if you got anything you want to say, and then I'm gonna let Mr. Campbell close us out, man.
Yeah, man. I just appreciate you fellas, you know, for even having this platform tonight, man. It's been very informative. You know, you guys dropped a lot of jewels, man. You know, I've been following No Excuse on the Low since like COVID days. I just been in the background, you know, lurking, getting all this free game. But yeah, LA Detroit, Mr. G, No Excuse, Kevin, man. Hey, I appreciate you guys. And Kevin, I'm gonna have to holler at you, man. I'll be in Brazil later on this month. So
Hey, hit me up, man. Hit me up.
for sure,
I'll be
man.
here.
But y'all boys have a blessed one, man. Thanks
Safe
again.
travels, man. Safe travels.
Thank you,
All right.
man.
All
Be
right.
blessed, bro.
Yes, sir.
All right, man. You got anything you want to close out with, Mr. G?
No, man, that was a good show, man. I probably didn't cut all of it, his whole biography when he started, but I probably, you know, watched the playback. But appreciate you having a nice, you know, just this is somebody we should be elevating in the community that actually have real story, boot on the ground, understand what it, you know, understand the pulse of the environment that can give us real actual information that makes sense. People that say they speak Portuguese and they actually do speak Portuguese. You know what I'm saying? That passport bro speaking Portuguese. Appreciate you having that. Hopefully you can have the brother back again so you know he can cover some other things. Peace, bro.
All
All
right.
right,
All
man.
right.
Yeah. God bless with the schools, man.
All right, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
All right. LA Detroit, man. So man, there y'all have it, man. I know y'all. I'm gonna answer some of the other questions about my opinion, man. But yeah, man, I appreciate you coming up, man. Like I said, another informative show. You know, just to recap, I just want to make sure nobody missed on anything. So, you know, the basic the child support process is so you get a girl pregnant. Y'all she about to have a baby. Y'all not together. You be proactive and put yourself on child support. Don't let her do it. I got the same advice in the U.S. too. That you should put your own self on child support wherever you at. You know, what I mean, you want to be proactive. Um, they're going to get a letter in the mail with a date and with a amount, which probably will be the equivalent of the minimum a monthly minimum wage salary of Brazil, which is currently about 250 a month, depending on what the exchange rate is. You can possibly, negotiate that down if you like. You know, the outcome you don't really know, but you have that option. Um, you said with visitation or custody, you have default legal custody, like decision making.
Exactly.
But you said the physical custody is something that may take a longer process.
Exactly. If you're trying to switch it, because by default, the mother is usually going to get preference, right? By you have joint custody no matter what, whether you go to court for it or not. That's sort of like the lay of the land. But then who she actually lives with is where that could be something that needs to go to court for if you want to change it, because probably most of the time it's going to be the mother who's going to get that preference. So if you want to switch that and make the father, and the mother doesn't want to, then yeah, you're gonna have to go to court for something like that.
Okay, now with the decision making, real quick, because we have issues in the U.S. where I want him to go to this school, no, I want her to go to that school, and so if you do have a dispute, what's the remedy behind that?
You're gonna have to try to work it out, and otherwise you're gonna have to be back in court trying to, but probably, and depending on the age of the child, that the child should be the tiebreaker. Right.
Okay.
So like in the case of my daughter at 13 years old, the judge would want to know her opinion. So if I, for instance, if I said I want to live with me, the mother said I want to live with me, and my daughter said I want to live with my father, then she's going to live with me. The judge is going to take what she wants into consideration.
Okay, pretty much like the U.S. All right. Well, yeah, man. Give us some closing thoughts, man. What should guys take away from dealing with the family court in Brazil?
All right. So for me, like I said, I think what you already picked up on is be proactive. You know what I'm saying? It always is going to be in your best interest when it doesn't look like you're trying to do what is stereotypical, which is run. Not be responsible. Not step up and be a father. That's like the normal, right? In the States, it's the normal here. So when you step out and you be proactive and show that no, that's not you, then that sort of turns the tides and how things are going to happen in that court, because the judge is going to look at you in a completely different light when they see that you did something you didn't have to do and you're offered to do something that most people don't do. So I say definitely be proactive. And I mean, at the end of the day, take care of your child, right? I mean, we're responsible, right? And we're responsible for them to be prepared to live alone, right? To survive, right? We're responsible for them to be able to survive, because we're not going to take care of them for their entire life. They have to at some point have their own family. So yeah, I mean, just consider always trying to do the right thing. To me, that's what it's always about. Try to do the right thing. We can't always do it for various reasons, but just make sure one of them is not something that's just an excuse, right? It's always like, is it an excuse, or you really could? All right. So just try to do the right thing, and that'll always put you ahead. That'll always, shock people, because most people don't, especially when we're talking about taking care of kids. The male is always stereotypical, doesn't want to pay child support, doesn't want to be a father. It's always thought of that way, you know what I'm saying? And so just don't fall into that.
Okay, sounds good, man. So I know you got a few donations, man. I appreciate everybody that donated to the language school. And
the school, people at the school, I can't wait to tell them tomorrow that we got some books that we can be able to help with some kids and find out who, because usually I always tell them we got a book. They'd be like, oh wait, then we need to contact such and such, because that was the reason why she couldn't put her kid in the school. I'm like, okay, cool, reach out. We got one. We got another one we can bring on.
Cool. Yeah, if you put together a video, I'll make sure I share that so guys can see where their donation went, man.
Definitely.
All right, man. Well, always, man. Appreciate you, man. If I need you to clear up something about Brazil, man.
Hey, hit me up, man. If you ever need me to come back, just hit me up. I'm always around. I enjoy this.
All right, man. Appreciate it, bro. 06.
All right, 06.
All right, man. There y'all have it, man. I'm gonna answer a couple of questions, man. People have for me. Ozzy said Colombia versus Brazil, though. Let me see. I pinned the question. He asked me earlier, no excuse, what are some things you don't like about Brazil? Seems like you're set on Colombia these days. Yeah, for me, man, is a couple things where Brazil was at. The first thing is that out of like DR and Colombia, women seem to be more patient with guys that couldn't speak Spanish. So even though if you couldn't speak Spanish, women seem to like be patient. You know, they'll smile. You know, even if you got to take time to Google Translate, women just seem to be just kind of patient, and they don't make you feel uncomfortable not being able to speak Spanish. Brazil, you know, women kind of cringe. You know, the body language just kind of showed that women in Brazil, they just really wasn't patient with guys that can't speak Portuguese. So it was easier to get to know women in Spanish-speaking countries speaking no Spanish because they're just more, you know, patient. And then that me getting to know those women, knowing no Spanish, it made me want to learn Spanish. So then I felt like it was worth it. These women made it so it was worth it for me to learn Spanish. Brazilian women didn't make me feel like it was worth it for me to show Portuguese because they didn't show me love with me not knowing no Portuguese. So that was one thing. And then two, if you know what I mean, a lot of us ain't really ready to like live in another country. So long distance relationships is like the next best option. And again, women in like let's say Colombia and DR, they were definitely more open to long distance relationships, patient, whereas Brazilian women are not really that really open to long distance relationships, and they don't really need it nor benefit from long distance relationship because there's always guys that are trying to take them out and have fun. Whereas Colombia and DR, you know, women don't really have, there's not as much, like in Colombia, there's not as much nightlife. There's not as much men with money that's trying to take women out every day and every week. So you got more women that's just kind of in the house bored in Colombia and DR, which makes them more, you know, available and open to do long distance relationships. And you know, Colombia for me, I just think that the average Colombiana is more attractive than the average Brazilian, even though Brazil has an extremely beautiful and an extremely like not so beautiful. Colombia just kind of has a more in between, and beauty is more spread out across, you know, things. And then other things like you know, health, uh, racism. You know, Colombia still has majority black cities. They still have majority black cities. Brazil has no majority black cities. Salvador has the largest population of black people, but the it, blacks are not the majority. They're not. It's not an over 50% black city anymore. You know what I mean? So Brazil did a hell of a job of whitening their population, diluting the population, and changing their demographic in a lot of majority black cities. So you know, there's things I like about Brazil. You know, it's a place to still frequent and visit, but you know, Colombia just had more positives for me than Brazil did. So hopefully I answered the question with that. Appreciate that, bro. He says, so you feel a lot more comfortable in Colombia? Yeah, definitely, definitely. And I just have a preference to be around Afro culture. So Colombia just has more of an Afro culture than Brazil. He said, while speaking with other passport bros, I think this analysis is very accurate. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of dynamics in Brazil. Even Brazil has a lot of obesity, and I didn't know, and I noticed that when if you've been to Brazil, the thing that I like about Brazil when it comes to food is they give you a lot of food. You go to a fast food restaurant, it's just like the U.S. You could get the supersized cups of fountain drinks. They give you so many fries. Brazilians eat. They eat. What I mean, if you've been in Brazil enough times, you typically have so much food you can't finish. While that's a good thing that you get your money's worth, the other thing is that you have a lot of people that's overweight because of that, women included. Even though they do have a gym culture and they have a fitness culture, yeah, but they do have an obesity. Obesity is there too. Colombia is different because if you go, and it kind of pissed me off at first. So if you've been to Colombia and you go to like what's that famous burger chain they got? If you go to a fast food restaurant, let's say a burger restaurant, right? You get a combo, a burger and fries. They'll bring you like this little ass thing of fries. You be like, it's not. You be like, it's like a handful of fries, and then like the fountain drink, it's a little ass cup. So I used to be annoyed, like, damn, like they stingy on the fries and drinks. But then when you look at the physical people of Colombia, they are not overweight. There's no obesity like that in Colombia. So because portion size are lower in Colombia, it's moderate, and some people may say Colombia food is kind of boring. But if you concerned about your health, if you don't like to see overweight women, yeah, Colombia is that country. And that's just another observation that exists in Brazil. So, I could talk about the positives and the negative, but those are some things that just point out to me. I will say, out of the Brazil, DR, and Colombia, I will say that real estate investment is probably more safer and better in Brazil. They have a better legal infrastructure. So I think it's better when it comes to that. I think that when it comes to adult entertainment, I think Brazil or Rio can be a little better because they just have more establishments. They have a more professional environment in these places. Medellin is just kind of risky, but you get some baddies in Colombia, so it's kind of hard to say which one better. But let's see. Try to say frustrated too. Yeah, Brazil. That opened a lot of people's eyes up, frustrated. But yeah, man. So those that didn't catch the stream, catch the points. Catch the replay if you can. But the takeaway for me is, and I asked him this question. I said, is there a difference between the U.S. and Brazil as it pertains to the dynamic of the family court system? Basically, what you would feel, what you experience, and he said there's no difference. But that wasn't his reason. That wasn't something that was going to be a deterrent or even something he thought about. So what I commend Kevin on is that he came to Brazil to make money. He wasn't thinking about what was going on in the Matrix because feminism, family courts, for him didn't really have a direct effect on his life. So I could understand that aspect, and a lot of people that are pro Brazil, that's what they kind of stand on, is that these things that these guys complain about in the US, or these particular things, whether it's feminism or the family court, they may see that it's irrelevant for them. Whereas for me, those type of things, the feminism, how the family court system is, those are things that concern me, but it may not concern everybody else, and I can't make what concerns me or what I think should be a red flag. I can't make it someone else's red flag. But I'm putting those red flags out there because for some people it might be a red flag. So that's the interesting thing. So check out the Philippines if you get a chance. Yeah, I'm gonna be back in the Philippines in October. I've been there one time, just Manila for a short time, but I'm definitely gonna be back in the building. He said the movie Frustrated 2 talks about Brazilian child support system. Oh, okay. Okay. I seen did I see that? I gotta go back and check that out. Salute to Al Grease on the Frustrated movie. Yeah, I didn't know about that. I don't know about that. Okay. That's good intel, man. So I could go on and on and on, man. If anybody got any questions, what I think about Brazil or any other places, man. But yeah, there's red flags. I wanted to put them out there. Let me put this link up real quick because I put up the link with the countries that are with the Hague Convention. So let me show that real quick. I've talked about this a lot of times, but some people are probably new to this. So let me show y'all this list real quick. He said, okay, I'm gonna go after that. It's gonna be like the first weekend in November when I'm in the Philippines. All right. So I don't know when this is gonna be open. I mean, updated. But this is a treaty signed in 2007. So I don't know when the next update is going to be. I'm sure there'll be more countries. I'm definitely sure there'll be more countries because this is what's 2007. How many years? This is very old. This is very old. Let me do the math on that real quick. 2024. Yeah, almost 17 years. So this is like well outdated. So just because your favorite country not on this list, it could be if this treaty gets updated. But in any event, these are the treaties that where if you have a child support or family maintenance order in that country, the U.S. will enforce it. It will enforce it. So I'm not going to read every country because a lot of these countries are part of the European Union, and you got some that are Eastern Europe as well. But I'm just going to kind of point out some of the countries that are not in Europe. So one of the first ones I see that's not in Europe, Botswana, but I think Botswana is kind of like it's not in bold, but Botswana is kind of like not a full member, but Botswana is on his list. So you got Brazil right here, Burkina Faso. This was kind of surprising. Cabo Verde, or also known as Cape Verde, is on here. Canada. Let's see. Dominican Republic is on here. The Dominicans know the laws. They spread information like a mud. Ecuador is on here. Okay, it says European Union right here. All these are Europeans. Guyana is on there, even though I heard Guyana has some beautiful women. Honduras is on here. I thought Chile was on here, but I guess they're not. I thought Chile would have been on here. Let's see. Montenegro, Netherlands, New Zealand, Nicaragua, Philippines. Philippines. It's interesting. Poland, Portugal, Romania, Serbia, Spain. So yeah, so I'll make a note to put this link in the description of the stream for you guys could circle back to it. But yeah, man, let me see what we got in the chat. He said, just don't skip out on your kid and you won't have anything to worry about. Handle your responsibilities and you're good. Yeah, that's a good point, man. Unfortunately, it's guys that's like that, man. This information may be for them to circumvent certain things, but you know, my experience with the child support, with the family courts in the U.S., it wasn't about the money. For me, it was more about the visitation stuff. And my issue with the U.S. is that they got different measures to enforce payment. You know what I mean? They can get the money in different ways, but they don't, you know, at least in my state that I was in the time period that I was bringing up with my child, they wasn't enforcing visitation like that. Yeah, you could go back and forth to court and complain and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But they don't give visitation the same energy as they give, payment. So that's my only issue. That's my main issue with the family court system. The money part is, it's fair. In my opinion, it's fair for the most part. You know, a lot of women just weaponize it. But that's a whole nother conversation. HB said it's definitely not that many African countries on there. Don't want niggas making babies. Kenya will probably be on this list when it's updated. Kenya is in South Africa. Those are very westernized countries right now. Botswana is in Africa. Yeah, it's in Africa. He said no, Colombia. No. No, Colombia. So I've studied these countries very well. All right, man. I'm gonna get out of here, man. Appreciate y'all tuning in on the Password Bros podcast. I will catch you guys next Tuesday. Peace out.
Yeah. Got the flight book, it's a library. I'm in the deal. Just took a flight to Bora and foreign cars like foreigners. Berry on her. Up in France, bitch, bonjour. I been come to go so we going Paris tomorrow. Only Paris we carry, spin at the mall. We doing singing along. My diamonds be saying, add some more change. That's the same alone. Dripping all the way from home and taking the wrong. Got the flight book, it's a library. We ain't flying solo. Tune in to the show. It's the Passport Bros. No excuse entertainment. Jay Slay on the show. Turn it up some more. It's the Passport Bros.